Welcome to The Conversation. I'm your host today, Anna Kasparian, because I am super excited to have a conversation with a colleague of mine, Director of Content Distribution here at TYT, Aaron Wysocki, who is an incredible person, a mild-mannered individual, and someone who went to Woodstock 99. And that's what this conversation will be about. I wanna hear all the stories. I wanna know what it was like to be there on the ground. And if you've been watching The Young Turks or the show I host on Jacobin called Weekends, you know that I've been obsessed, absolutely obsessed with that HBO documentary, Woodstock 99. So Aaron, thank you for taking the time to be with us. I mean, you'd be with us anyway, you literally work for TYT, but I'm glad that we get to have this conversation. It's gonna be great.
Thanks, yeah, happy to be here.
So I didn't know anything about Woodstock 99 until that documentary was recommended to me by Bart Kyle and also our stage manager, Craig. And what was shocking to me was the fact that you, of all people, decided to go to Woodstock 99. So let me just give a quick overview. It ended in riots. It ended in like massive fires on the grounds. It was held in a military base, a naval base, I believe, and it just ended with complete and utter disaster. And when you look at the looting and rioting that took place, and you also consider that Aaron Wysocki happens to be one of the most mild-mannered people I've ever known, it's kind of shocking you went. So let's start from the very beginning, Aaron. Why did you and your friends decide to go to Woodstock 99?
Wow, okay. So I had just turned 18. It was the summer after I graduated. And it seemed like a cool adventure, kind of like a way, the last hurrah before I moved out to Pittsburgh and life and responsibilities hit me. So, and there was a chartered bus that came from the town that I lived in. So it was really easy to get there, which made it a much easier choice to make.
So it seemed like an adventure. You're thinking it could be a lot of fun, and to be sure, music festivals tend to be a lot of fun. Were there any musical artists that you were really looking forward to watching? The lineup mostly consisted of some new metal bands. There were some women sprinkled in, specifically 3 women: Alanis Morissette, Jewel, and Sheryl Crow. But who were you looking forward to seeing the most?
Oh yeah, I was a fan of all of that new metal stuff. I still am. Maybe I should be embarrassed by that, but I still am. Saturday night lineup was the big draw for me because you had Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine, and Metallica like all in a row, and I had never seen Rage Against the Machine, so I was really excited about that. So yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of acts that were really great that I was looking forward to seeing.
And so we're looking at a list of acts for all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Are these the notes that you took yourself?
Yeah, and I underlined the bands that I saw, which might be hard to see there, but yeah, I mean, there were so many bands that I was looking forward to seeing. Rage was definitely at the top of the list, though.
I love it, and don't feel bad about enjoying the music that we're talking about, because I actually went back and started listening to Limp Bizkit again. And I like it more today than I did when I was in high school. I don't know what that says about me. I don't even care. But it was therapeutic listening to Limp Bizkit while going on my morning run. I ran faster for a longer period of time, and I felt like it was therapy. But anyway, so let's talk about what you experienced, beginning with day 1. So there were already some red flags on Friday, right? So people show up, it's being held in a military base that is not grassy and lush like you typically expect at a music festival. What were your thoughts when you first entered the grounds?
I mean, it was chaos before we even walked in. Right at the security gate, it went bananas. I mean, there was nudity before we even walked in. The security checkpoint was just, I mean, they weren't checking anything. It was very unorganized and kind of chaotic from the minute we got there. From the minute we got off the bus, it was very clear that it was gonna be disorganized. But I was just so excited to be there that, I didn't really pay attention to that stuff. I was just, we got in there as quick as we could. We put our tent down and went to the stage as fast as we could.
So you guys decided that the appropriate accommodations would be a tent on this military base where the music festival was being held.
There wasn't any other choice, really. You had to sleep in a tent. yeah, I don't think there really was anywhere else to stay.
So this is in, obviously, 1999. We're looking at an image that you shared with us from the Wysocki archives. And it's in Rome, New York in July of 1999. So can you just talk about what the weather conditions were like?
Oh, it was so hot. But first, my buddy that's in that picture, that's not me. My buddy that's in that picture wanted me to make it very clear that that's a cigar, not anything else. And that is our tent in the open area. I think they called it the open meadow camping ground there. So yeah, I'm sorry, what was your?
So you show up, you guys have pitched your tent. You already see that it's pretty disorganized. It's incredibly hot. What else happened on Friday that might give people a sense that things are not gonna end well during this festival?
Well, again, it was very poorly organized, and it was impossible to find where you put the tent down. The bathroom situation was a mess from the jump. Like, it was really gross from the get-go. You very quickly realize everything is super expensive. The water, the famous $4 a bottle water that's been talked about a lot, was clear right from the jump. So it was really hot. It was an Air Force base, actually. So there was like a lot of asphalt, which made it even hotter. And it just took forever to get from one stage to the other. So all of that was clear right away.
Okay, great. So you cited the bathroom issue, the water bottle issue. We're gonna get to that in just a second. But what really stood out to me and why I love that documentary so much, other than the nostalgic component to it, the music was stuff that was popular when I was in school. So that appealed to me. But what also appealed to me were the multiple themes that you can kind of pick out simultaneously. And the theme that stood out to me the most was that of exploitation, right? So we're talking about a music festival where people rightly want to feel a sense of community and celebrate and enjoy music. And it's turned into a commodity, right? It's turned into something to commodify and profit off of. And you see that play out in so many different planning elements for the festival, right? And certainly the water situation and the toilet situation happens to be an example of that. So can you talk to me a little bit about what went wrong with the porta potties that were provided for the festival goers?
I mean, it was just, they weren't clean, not even close to clean. I mean, it had looked like they had been there forever by the time we got there on Friday.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was just, they were really, really bad. It was unusable. I didn't shower once. I didn't see the showers. I don't remember even using the porta potties, which I was there for a whole weekend. So I don't know how that's possible. Yeah, and that's a picture of the water. So you can see that cement thing kind of right behind my head. That's when when the organizers talk about water being available, there was basically water shooting out of that thing. And that was the water that was available. So, I mean, it was really, really gross right from the jump.
So let's put that picture back up because your eyes are not lying to you. You see that cement barrel thing with water shooting up, and it's right next to the overflowing porta potties because there's trash everywhere. The organizers did not think to, arrange pumping of the porta potties. So they were overflowing. There was raw sewage everywhere as a result. In fact, some of the raw sewage, it was reported, made its way into the area where the tents were. Did you have an experience with that?
Not in the tent area. We weren't really in the tent that much. I mean, you try to avoid it if you could find it, which was difficult. I was really only there for a couple of hours and in and out. The mud was just, all over walking from one stage to another. And one thing that I do remember is the answer to the mud was to throw sheets of plywood over the top of it. So yeah, it was. You could see. It was just everywhere. It really was everywhere. And I didn't think it was anything other than mud, but looking back on it, yeah, it was all over the bathroom area. It was really gross.
I'm back to gaslighting. Did you and I talk about gaslighting on Old School?
Probably.
That boss gaslit all his female employees. People who manipulate others like that make you feel like you're the weirdo. Why won't you punch yourself in the face? What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Why didn't I just punch myself in the face and poke my eye out? I'm 47 and I just figured it out like earlier this year.
You figured out somebody was doing it to you, or that you were
that it was that it would have been happening my whole life and I didn't realize it.
Right.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richey. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? It was the white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it though.
I've been a fan of TYT, I believe, for the last 6 years.
5 years.
3 years now. 7 years.
4 years now.
2.5 years. I just started because she got me into it.
My boyfriend actually watches it every morning and every night, so I kind of just started watching it with him, and I love it. I mean, it's the only way that I find my news.
Looking through YouTube, looking for political shows that look cool.
I came across a very angry rant from Cenk, and that's when I knew.
So I was immediately in love with the show.
And then I haven't missed a live show since then.
10 times a day, I watched the show in the morning.
Whenever I had a bad day at high school, Young Turks.
Man, Cenk is just so blunt and honest, and I love the honesty, and there's no BS behind the news, and they just tell everything like it is.
There's nobody censoring him. There's nobody there to say you can't do this, you can't say that.
That feel of authenticity makes it seem like what they're saying is true.
I feel like I get the real story from the Young Turks.
I am TYT.
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 Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one.
Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
So once you're dealing with the untenable bathroom situation, are you at a point where you're thinking, maybe I want to go home? Maybe I'm not into this. Or were you just this rebellious 18-year-old Aaron Wysocki who's like, yo, I'm here to see Rage Against the Machine. What's a little raw sewage? What's a little raw sewage? Well, what were you thinking?
Yeah, again, I was just so excited to be there and to be there with all those people. It was just like a crazy event that I knew would be kind of like a once in a lifetime thing. So, I mean, even after the riots, like I think it was a great experience. My friend I went with said it was a great experience that he'd do over again in a minute.
Wow.
So you just look past the bad stuff, the bathroom situation anyway.
So we're talking about a terrible situation with the free water, right? It's not really that accessible. There were even people showering in those concrete barrels that were shooting the water, which made it impossible to actually drink that water. You have the terrible toilet situation, and then they were selling $4 bottles of water for anyone who was willing to pay for it. And people weren't willing to pay for it because think about it, it's $19.99. If you adjust for inflation, that's about $6.50 for a 16-ounce bottle of water. So it's hot. You don't have these lush green grounds because it's on a military base. Water is hard to come by. There's raw sewage everywhere. So understandably, some of these festival goers were feeling a little grumpy, feeling a little heated, both physically and mentally. And so things started to kind of go off the rails on Saturday. Talk about your experience that day.
Yeah, so, I think that's a common misconception that things started going off the rails on Saturday. So Limp Bizkit had an infamous set where Fred Durst got a little bit crazy, but that's what Limp Bizkit did. That was their show. So, I don't think things started on Saturday. I mean, people were grumpy and it was hot and there was a lot of that, but that was from Friday. Things really started going bad on Saturday. And Saturday, when the sun started going down, is when it got really bad. Not so much on Saturday.
Okay, so what happened on Saturday? What was your personal experience on that day?
On Sunday or Saturday?
Saturday.
The last day. On Saturday was a really great day, just kind of jam-packed full of bands. I slipped in the mud and my foot went about a foot down into the mud on Saturday. I saw a lot of really great bands. The one memory I have is my buddy crowd surfed into the crowd and we lost each other. So I was by myself for most of the day on Saturday. And there wasn't cell phones. So, you're lost by yourself, you're kind of just lost. So I just kind of had to wait until late Saturday night to find my buddy again. That's a picture of him crowd surfing it.
That's amazing.
Into the middle of the crowd, yeah. So, my memories of Saturday night were, seeing Rage Against the Machine and really loving that, and my friend crowd surfing and the mud. And just seeing a lot of really great bands. Like it didn't feel dangerous or anything like that on Saturday.
That's incredible. It's really incredible. Like it's incredible that the dominant narrative is that Saturday during Limp Bizkit's set, that's when things really unraveled. There was violence, it was dangerous. But here you have Aaron Wysocki who's like, it was great. I had a good time. Were you moshing?
No. I have never understood the appeal of a mosh pit. That's no, that's not my thing. One thing that I really wanted to mention though is, this thing, Sunday night was so crazy. And it's clear after listening to a really great podcast called Break Stuff from The Ringer, which is really great. And having been there and watched the documentary on HBO, that there was a very laissez-faire kind of attitude around from the organizers from the jump. Like in '69, there was a pretty infamous event with an electrical wire that was crazy, and they just kind of let it happen and got lucky that it didn't turn much worse. And there was very little security in '69, so it was clear that the organizers kind of they were very laid back about certain things, and I think it just got out of control. Definitely.
One of the things that they were laid back about was security itself, and they relied heavily on volunteer security guards. And essentially they were like, look, you come here, work as a security guard, and you get free entrance. You don't get pay. We're capitalists, but you get free entrance to the music festival. So what was it like dealing with security, or what was your experience with security on the ground? Yeah, go ahead.
I never saw security. I didn't even know there was security there. I didn't see one police officer. I didn't see any security the entire time. And I crowd surfed at one point, but not to the front of the stage. And that's really where the only security people I saw were there in the front of the stage.
You were crowd surfing. So were unnamed men groping you and grabbing your breasts during your? No.
Yeah, and that's actually the biggest. Especially now that I'm older, that's the most disappointing thing. And having watched that documentary is I remember thinking this is very unsafe for women here, and there was a lot of men there.
So talk about that, because
and that happened to the women there was just shameful.
It's absolutely disgusting. I mean, one of the organizers continues to blame the women who were sexually abused during this festival. There are countless videos, some of which you can see in the Woodstock 99 documentary, where women are crowd surfing and they're being groped just in plain sight, right? So, okay, talk a little bit more about what it was like for women there, because you have some, unique perspective on that I think is important for the audience to hear about.
I mean, it was overwhelmingly white male, and the few women I saw there were, not in good situations. So on the very last day when the riots started and we decided to leave, my friend and I were back at the tent and we're trying to grab our stuff as quick as we can to get out of there. And a very young girl came over to the tent. She was half naked, clearly very upset. And we asked her what was going on. And she said somebody had grabbed her tent with all of her stuff, all of her clothes, all of her money, everything she had was in the tent. And they had just tossed it into the fire. So, that was just kind of a small example of kind of what I saw over and over and over again for women there. It was very unsafe for them.
And so she asked you guys for help. How did you guys respond?
We left our tent there. We left our sleeping bag there. At that point, I don't think I had any money left. I think I went with $100, so I was out. But so we just kind of left everything there and said she could have whatever we had there.
So this is what I wonder about. Because I think maybe a few months ago, if I had heard these stories, I would naively assume that there would be good guys there who would intervene, and help protect some of the women who were being abused there. Did you experience any of that, or was it just kind of a free for all?
Up until Sunday night, it was a free for all. Yeah, Sunday night. I mean, it was. There's a lot of stories about violence and stuff, but I didn't really see violence against people aside from people's stuff. But it felt the worst was Sunday night. But leading up to that, women were outnumbered by far, for sure. And it was just kind of a free for all, for sure.
All right, so let's get into Sunday, where things really got under control, and set the scene for us, okay? Where were you? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you feeling? And what happened?
Yeah, so I have very vivid memories of Sunday night. So the last kind of band that we were going to see was Red Hot Chili Peppers. I remember Flea being completely naked on stage, which was shocking to see. And then they play, we were sort of further back, kind of by, I don't know what they're called, but they had a bunch of really big towers that were set up. And so we were kind of further back by one of the towers on the right-hand side of the stage. And I remember looking over and seeing one of the really big bonfires. And they were more getting started kind of around the area. And Red Hot Chili Peppers played Fire, which was kind of their last big song there. And I looked at my buddy and I said, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Because we didn't, I mean, it was, the fires were starting and there was too many of them for me to feel safe.
So that was the moment that did it for you. It's Sunday night, you're starting to see fire everywhere and you're like, oh, I think now it's time to go.
Yeah. And then as we were walking back, I don't remember exactly when it happened, but we found out that police were called in, National Guard were being called in. And I was just sort of let's get our stuff and go to the bus area as quick as we can, because I wasn't afraid for my safety. I was afraid of getting left there. That's the thing I was afraid of there.
Right, because they don't, I mean, this is 1999, people don't have cell phones. If you lose a friend, as you mentioned, you might not see them until the end of the night. And so if you had gotten lost, would you have a difficult time getting back home? Was that what you were concerned about?
No, I had no money. I had nothing. I wasn't, that was my primary concern. And in fact, it was so unorganized that, we rushed back to the tent, we got our stuff, got out of there. And the bus area was there was no one there helping anyone. And, we didn't know where to go. So I remember grabbing a piece of cardboard and writing the name of the company that had chartered the bus on it.
Mm-hmm.
The bus area to find our bus to get back. And luckily we had found our bus. Somebody had recognized the name of the company and we just happened to find our bus. But on the bus afterwards, people were talking about people that we had left there.
Wow. Wow. So
yeah.
Did you see anyone like physically injured, either from being in the mosh pits or from the riots that occurred on Sunday?
No, I saw a lot of people like really like exhausted and like, there was in the documentary, there was a couple pictures of people like underneath the semi trucks. And I remember seeing that. But I don't think I saw anyone injured. Everyone was just really hot and really tired.
It's amazing. Aaron Wysocki, the director of content distribution here at TYT and a fan of nu metal who attended Woodstock 99. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us about it.
Well, thank you.
Welcome, friends. You're watching The Young Turks. I'm your host, Anna Kasparian, and we have a pretty big show ahead for you guys. In hour 2, John Iadarola, host of The Damage Report, will be joining me to help me do some of these stories, share our analysis and our thoughts on what's in the news today. In the first hour, we'll talk about how Elizabeth Warren has proposed new legislation to ensure that corporations pay a minimum tax, but I'll explain why she and Angus King, who also took part in that proposal, get no cookies. So get a load of that story later in the first hour. We'll also talk about the school district in Tennessee that has parents so furious about a mask mandate for elementary students that they're literally threatening healthcare professionals to their faces. So we got some fun video to share on that story and more. But before we get to any of that, just wanted to encourage you guys to like and share the stream if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're not, maybe go on YouTube and like and share the stream anyway. That would really, really help us out with the algorithm. You know, the internets, they like it. They like it when you like things and share it. And we like it when you like things and share it. So thank you in advance for doing that. And with no further ado, why don't we move on to our first story? The Senate has officially approved a $3.5 trillion budget blueprint. Now, this is a resolution, meaning that they haven't actually voted on the final legislation yet, but this is the reconciliation bill that we've been talking about for months and months. The very bill that includes all of the agenda items in Biden's infrastructure package that didn't actually make it in the bipartisan infrastructure package. Now, that includes much of what was, again, left out of Biden's proposals in his infrastructure proposal. And of course, not a single GOP lawmaker in the Senate voted in favor of it, but that was to be expected. Again, this is the $3.5 trillion bill that includes things like childcare, elder care. Here, let me give you a list of provisions that are included that was provided by Bernie Sanders to Jeff Stein of the Washington Post. It includes child tax benefits, universal pre-K, paid family and medical leave, tuition-free community college, lower prescription drug costs, dental, hearing, vision, Medicare expansion, housing, home care, major climate action, immigration reform specifically pertaining to DACA recipients. It also includes lower Medicare age, meaning that it seeks to expand Medicare to cover more individuals, Obamacare expansion, increasing physical supply, and also, I'm gonna keep it real, I don't know what increasing physical supply means. But it does have important provisions that do fund certain things that help ordinary Americans rather than corporate America. And where would the revenue come from? It would come from a beefed up IRS, meaning that it would be funded to do the audits necessary on tax dodgers at the very top. It would tax the rich, tax corporations, and also implement fees on polluters. And it would include Medicare negotiations. Now, that's a summary of the bill. The reason why we're giving you a summary is because we don't have the actual legislation in front of us yet, because all they did was vote on a blueprint. They didn't vote on the end legislation, they just voted on this blueprint, and it passed with every Democratic senator voting in favor of it. So that's positive news, except we're already hearing that while some of these corporate Democrats in the Senate voted in favor of the resolution, they're unlikely to vote in favor of the final bill because they have issues with, let's keep it real, taxing the rich. Now, the chamber's approval of the budget framework came after an hours-long spectacle known as Vote-a-rama. The process is where senators are allowed to offer an unlimited number of largely meaningless and non-binding provisions. So non-binding means that nothing's gonna happen, right? They propose these provisions, they debate the provisions, they give their floor speeches about these provisions, but at the end of the day, these amendments to the resolution are in fact non-binding. Now, Senator Ron Wyden, who's the chair of the Senate Finance Committee, offered an amendment expressing support for tax increases on the nation's richest 0.1%. The measure actually failed. It failed. Why did it fail? Because Senators Kyrsten Sinema, Jeanine Shaheen, and Maggie Hassan joined every Republican in voting no. So that's a red flag, because that made it very clear that there are several Democratic lawmakers in the Senate who have a problem with increasing taxes on the rich in order to pay for some of the provisions in this more robust bill. Now, it's now being referred to as a budget bill. It was originally referred to as the second half of the infrastructure bill, the reconciliation version that allows for its passage with a simple majority in the Senate. But it's clear that Kyrsten Sinema, who has no problem infuriating her own base, her own constituents, would fight this legislation when it comes down to a final vote in the Senate. The $3.5 trillion budget resolution now heads to the House, which can either pass the measure as is or amend it and send it back to the Senate. House Democratic Majority Leader Steny Hoyer announced Tuesday that the lower chamber will cut its recess short to take up the measure on August 23rd. So the real question now is, what is likely to happen once this legislation makes its way to the House? Because there has unfortunately also been some pushback from corporate Democrats in the House. Now, in the House, Democrats do have a majority. It isn't a large enough majority to prevent a block of corporate Democrats from stopping its passage. So we'll see what happens there. But understand that both in the Senate and the House, you have corporate Democrats who plan to stand in the way, and that's a huge, huge problem. Now, the other problem is you have corporate media and the way that it frames these types of stories, these types of proposals. On one hand, you have the slimmed down bipartisan infrastructure bill, which includes corporate handouts, which includes privatizing public infrastructure. And it seems like the media has been pretty favorable in their coverage toward that bipartisan bill. It's historic, it's historic. Oh my gosh, we never thought that Democrats and Republicans could work together to pass anything. I got news for you, when it comes to corporate handouts, they'll work together to pass anything. Now, the way that they talk about the $3.5 trillion budget deal, that's also fascinating. Now, pay close attention to how CNN framed both pieces of legislation when they covered this story.
A two-headed monster is making its way through the US Senate. On one track, a $1.2 trillion infrastructure package poised for a final vote late tonight or early tomorrow morning. And then on the other, a $3.5 trillion budget resolution, which was just released today.
A two-headed monster? It's an interesting way of framing legislation that improves infrastructure, and in the case of the $3.5 trillion proposal, improves the lives of ordinary Americans through legislation, which honestly hasn't happened in a long, long time. But let's watch a little more of CNN's coverage on this, because some of their reporting is important, especially the reporting that calls out the Democratic lawmakers who have a problem with increasing taxes on the wealthy in order to pay for all those provisions that we desperately need.
The Senate also set in the coming days to pass the $3.5 trillion budget blueprint that unlocks the ability to pass the second piece, packed with progressive priorities, through the Senate on a simple majority vote.
The most significant legislation for American families since the era of the New Deal and the Great Society.
Setting up weeks of closed-door negotiations over a package set to include home and child care, free community college, universal pre-K, paid leave, and even a pathway to citizenship for certain undocumented immigrants. But with the barest majorities in both chambers, no easy path ahead. As tension between the wings of the Democratic Party ramps up in the House, where moderates, in a letter to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, are pressing leaders to pass the Senate infrastructure bill now, saying, quote, the country cannot afford unnecessary delays. Immediately drawing sharp rebuttals from progressives who refuse to support that bill until the second measure is ready for passage. Pelosi making clear the bipartisan bill will go nowhere until that second bill is complete.
Whatever you can achieve in a bipartisan way, bravo. We salute it, we applaud it, we hope that it will pass soon. But at the same time, we're not going forward with leaving people behind.
Now, the real question is, will Nancy Pelosi stand her ground as House Speaker? She claims that she will not allow for a floor vote on the bipartisan infrastructure bill unless both pieces of legislation, the infrastructure bill and the budget bill, make their way to the House. But here's the issue. As you saw in that report, you have corporate Democrats in the House who are urging the House Speaker to allow for a floor vote on the bipartisan bill immediately, regardless of where we're at with the $3.5 trillion budget bill. And that is a problem, and we should name them by name because we do have some more information about the letter that they sent her, and we should know who they are. So, a group of 6 moderate Democrats, they're conservative corporate Democrats, of course, has started circulating a letter addressed to Speaker Nancy Pelosi that urges her to bring the bipartisan legislation to the House floor for a vote as soon as possible. And here's what the letter says. We must bring the bipartisan infrastructure bill to the House floor for a standalone vote. This once-in-a-century investment deserves its own consideration without regard to the other legislation. Separately, as we begin the reconciliation process, we have concerns about the specific components of that potential package, meaning we don't like the $3.5 trillion package. The $3.5 trillion package includes tax increases for individuals making more than $400,000 a year and for corporations. And we're not like in favor of that, you know? These are people who help fund our campaigns. These are people who have more sway than our constituents, who overwhelmingly support the $3.5 trillion bill based on polling. But we listen to our donors and we protect our donors, and our donors don't want tax increases. They talk about the spending, right? Pay close attention, because they'll never say, of course, they'll never say, we're looking out for our corporate donors, they don't want to pay more in taxes. What they will say is, we're worried about the deficit. The deficit, guys, the deficit. We're so concerned about the deficit. So that's why we're, raising some red flags here. But let's vote on that corporate giveaway bipartisan infrastructure bill first. Let's do it as a standalone bill. So the question is, will House Speaker Nancy Pelosi stand her ground, or will she cave to these corporate Democrats? And who are they? The letter is being circulated by conservative Democratic representatives Josh Gottheimer, Jared Golden, Kurt Schrader, and also Vicente Gonzalez, Ed Case, and Philmon Vela from Texas. So those are the lawmakers who signed on to that letter. They want a standalone vote on that infrastructure bill. They do not support, it's already very clear, the $3.5 trillion budget bill that includes everything that actually benefits the lives of working Americans. And so it's important to know who our friends are, who our enemies are, who looks out for corporate interests, and who looks out for their own constituents and ordinary Americans. We don't know how this is gonna play out, but progressives do have some leverage here. If progressives withhold their vote on the bipartisan infrastructure deal and ensure that they also get a vote on the budget deal, I think that all of that hard work, all of that campaigning to get them elected as they were primarying corporate Democrats will pay off. They need to hold their ground. They need to stand their ground. And I think that progressives specifically, have the ability to do it, and they'll have my full support if they do. There's no reason we should allow corporate Democrats to be the ones who have all the sway over the future of this country, over the future of the infrastructure bill. If you want the corporate handouts and the corporate goodies, you gotta give us something in return. That's what progressives should be saying. And they are saying it, to be fair. The question is, will they hold their ground? We'll see. All right, moving on to another component to this story that I think is worth discussing. I'm gonna focus on Joe Manchin specifically. My favorite West Virginian. Conservative Democratic Senator Joe Manchin has signaled that he will not, in fact, support his own party's agenda in the budget proposal that was just passed in the Senate in the form of a resolution. So the resolution is a blueprint. It's not the final piece of legislation. The resolution is something that luckily every Democratic senator just voted in favor of, which means that we finally got past another obstacle in regard to the $3.5 trillion plan. Now, Manchin did vote in favor of it. However, immediately after voting in favor of it, he said, look, there are some issues here. There are issues that impact my corporate donors. I don't like it. So he doesn't say that explicitly, but that's what's implied. Manchin provided a key vote over unanimous Republican opposition to approve the blueprint, which allows Senate Democrats to create an expansive package that they hope will fund climate change, healthcare, and education measures while increasing taxes on wealthy people and corporations. But this is what's important, less than 4 hours after he voted in favor of this, Manchin issued a statement declaring, quote, serious concerns about the grave consequences facing West Virginians and every American family if Congress decides to spend another $3.5 trillion. Oh, are you worried about how that's gonna affect West Virginians? Is Manchin really concerned about that? Or is Manchin concerned about his own political future? Is he concerned about his corporate donors, the billionaires that he has meetings with, like the billionaires he was talking to when he was trying to entice them to bribe his fellow Republican colleagues to work with him to give the American people the illusion of bipartisanship. Now, Manchin doesn't care about West Virginians. There, I said it. Because the $3.5 trillion proposal that he's now speaking out against would overwhelmingly benefit the lives of West Virginians, and not just West Virginians, of working Americans. It's not the New Deal. I'm not going that far, and anyone who claims it is a clown, because there are no systemic changes in that proposal. However, there's quite a bit of funding to the tune of $3.5 trillion that would help families, that would help elderly people, that would help individuals who don't have health care right now. It would expand Medicare to cover more people. Medicare would be more robust and it would cover more of what people need covered, like dental care, for instance. I mean, how is he gonna argue that West Virginians wouldn't benefit from that legislation? Obviously, he's lying. What is he really worried about? Well, he's worried about the pay-fors. He's worried about raising taxes on the privileged, on the wealthy, on the corporations, the very people who, some years pay nothing in federal taxes, and in fact, even receive a refund. So let me give you more. So the blueprint now heads to the House, and we'll see what happens in the House. They will take up, they'll actually return to the Capitol earlier than expected. They're on recess right now, but they're planning on coming back by August 23rd to take up this measure. Now, it would pave the way, as I mentioned, to expand Medicare to include dental, health, and vision benefits. It would also fund a host of climate change programs, which we clearly desperately need right now. It would provide free kindergarten and community college. I'm sure the fine people of West Virginia have no interest in that, no interest in free pre-kindergarten or community college. I'm sure they have no interest in, if they have Medicare, of Medicare being expanded to cover more of their needs. I'm sure they have no interest in that. I mean, Joe Manchin, speaking on behalf of West Virginians, would know better than I would, right? West Virginians want no help at all. I mean, they're suffering in poverty right now, but they don't want any of this. Joe Manchin knows better. Senator Bernie Sanders explained why this legislation is so important. Listen.
People want a government which represents all of us and not just the few. And this legislation is going to ask the wealthiest people in our country to start paying their fair share of taxes so that we can address the needs of working families, the elderly, the children, the sick, and the poor. And despite what some of my Republican colleagues may be saying, no one in America who makes less than $400,000 a year will pay a nickel more in federal taxes. In fact, what we are looking at in this budget proposal is an historic tax cut for working families and the middle class.
I love what Senator Sanders said there. But remember, he specifically cited Republican colleagues. Republicans are not part of the equation on this $3.5 trillion proposal. This is something that's gonna pass through reconciliation, meaning that it will pass, or it can pass, with a simple majority in the Senate. And the Senate is split 50-50, meaning that if every Democrat votes in favor of it, Kamala Harris, the vice president, can come in and break the tie, and it gets passed in the Senate. The attention should be focused on the likes of Joe Manchin and other corporate Democrats in the Senate. People like Kyrsten Sinema, Mark Warner, John Tester, I mean, the list goes on and on. These are people that we should be worried about. People who want to stand in the way of passing this legislation because it includes tax increases for the rich. And that's what Manchin's concerned about. He's not concerned about West Virginia. Oh, this is gonna hurt West Virginians. No, it's not. He knows it's not. He's worried it's gonna hurt his donors, and then, of course, in turn, negatively affect him and his political career. Homeboy's already fundraising for his re-election campaign. He needs those donors. Does he need West Virginians? Apparently not. Because he's speaking on their behalf and telling the American people that West Virginians don't want a fairer system, that West Virginians don't want help with childcare, with elder care, with Medicare. It's fascinating, fascinating stuff. By the way, Joe Manchin, just want to remind you of a story we did last week. He benefits handsomely off of our inaction on climate change. In fact, he makes $500,000 a year from one of the dirtiest coal plants in West Virginia. And yes, that's more than twice his salary as a US Senator. We should also take a look at who funds Joe Manchin. That's super relevant to this story. So this is from Open Secrets, and it shows his fundraising from 2015 to 2020. And if you can see there, the vast majority of his contributions come from large individual contributors. Okay, so more than $5.6 million, 58% of his campaign donations come from large individual donors. Then you have PACs. Small dollar donors, oh, would you look at that? Only 4.02% of his campaign donations come from small donors. I wonder why. As someone who feels confident speaking on behalf of West Virginians, it's kind of weird that such a small portion of his fundraising comes from individuals. Weird, really weird. You would think that as a man who has his finger on the pulse for West Virginians, they would provide more funding for his elections, his re-election campaigns. But it looks like he's mostly funded by big industry. Let me give you some more examples. If Manchin runs for re-election in 2024, which he will likely face challenges from both the right and from his left, as some progressive Democrats hope to replace him with one of their own. His primary campaign has already begun fundraising and clocked in with roughly $638,000 through the end of September 2020. Now, who has been funding him? Like specific companies? Well, remember, the $3.5 trillion budget proposal includes funding for climate action. You don't like that. The American Chemistry Council, whose members include companies like Shell and Exxon, spent $200,000 to support Manchin in his 2018 campaign. It's a lot of money. Seems like he cares a lot about what they think. Much of that cash came from PACs affiliated with oil and natural gas companies, including Valero Energy Corporation, National Fuel Gas Company, and DTE Energy, which have long supported Manchin's political career. Those are his buddies, he's looking out for them. But he won't say that publicly. He'll just tell you what West Virginians want when it's the opposite of what they're actually saying. Also, only two industries, securities and investment, and lawyers and law firms, contributed more to Manchin throughout his career. And some of these campaign contributions are provided through law firms to help hide the industries or the individuals helping to fund his campaign. So when you see lawyers or law firms as one of the top contributors, that's what's really going on. This is all to say that Joe Manchin isn't speaking out against important legislation because he's worried about bipartisanship. He's also not worried about being a Democratic lawmaker in a red state like West Virginia. When you look at polling, every poll over and over again shows that the majority of Americans, ordinary Americans, are in favor of Biden's original infrastructure proposal, which got cut down to the corporate handout bill that the bipartisan infrastructure bill represents right now. But all of those positive provisions that the majority of Americans want, that's now in the budget proposal. And Joe Manchin telling us that ordinary Americans don't want that and that it's harmful to them is honestly laughable when you take a good hard look at what really motivates him and what really drives his commentary on this legislation. Sure, he's worried about re-election, but not because he's running in a red state. He's worried about re-election because the very people who made him, who have given him a political career, his corporate donors, don't want him to support a bill that would increase taxes on corporations and the wealthy. That's what's really at play. And if anyone in the media tells you otherwise, they're lying to you. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about lawmakers who are trying to tax the rich, but do they deserve any cookies for that? I say no, and I'll explain why. In like an 80s mood today. All right, I see you, I see you. There used to be a fun 80s club in Hollywood back in the day. Doesn't exist anymore because nothing in Hollywood exists longer than a few years, if that. Anyway, few announcements, fun announcements. We've got emojis on and poppin' for our YouTube members, but we want you guys to vote on them. So easiest way to do that is to log on to YouTube, go to our channel, click on that community tab, and that's where you'll see all the fun stuff, all right? We're all about community here, okay? So you get to vote on your favorite emojis. You get to weigh in on certain perks that members get. So vote in the poll created by and for TYT members. The poll closes Tuesday at the end of the main show at, Thursday, meaning today, at the end of the main show at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And then we'll announce the winner, the emoji winner on the show on Friday. Also, just wanted to let you guys know about our podcast. We are now launching the podcast version of all sorts of programming here at TYT, which is great. We've teamed up with Acast to do it. And I don't know about you all, but my favorite way to consume content is through podcasts because I'm a multitasker. I'll do it when I'm on my morning run or I'll listen to podcasts while I'm cleaning my place. So check that out. It's a good way to multitask if that's your kind of thing. Moving over to our members, Gabby Marita says, can we just yeet Kyrsten Sinema off Island Democrat already? So I don't know what that means, so I can't agree to it until I know what. Does anyone know what yeet means? Okay, so just like toss her out, toss. Okay, yeah, we can do that. I mean, sure. If she wants to only vote with Republicans, then she should just be one. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's so infuriating when you look at how she campaigned and what she turned into, right? It just shows you that they try to bamboozle people. So John Campbell Reese writes in and says, why has this man not been kicked out of the Democratic Party already? Okay, so here's the thing, and I wanna be fair. So Manchin gets on my last nerve, and he has been unbearable during the Biden administration. But if you look at his voting record, more often than not, he does go along with the Democratic Party. I just think that he needs to be pushed, and so while Senator Sanders going after Republican colleagues is great, I think a lot of that attention should now be focused on corporate Democrats in the Senate. The pressure works. Let's get back to the show. Welcome back to TYT, Anna Kasparian with you. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like and share the stream because it helps to get more eyeballs on this show. And I love eyeballs. Who doesn't love eyeballs, right? Eyeballs are fun. All right, well, let's move on to our next story because I have a shocking take. There are lawmakers who are trying to raise taxes on corporations, but I think that they don't deserve cookies for it. What? Is Anna taking in that Clinton cash? Is that what's going? No, that's not what's going on, okay? So let me give you the deets. Congressional lawmakers have proposed new legislation that would ensure that the wealthiest, most prosperous corporations in this country pay a minimum tax. A minimum tax. Because the tax cuts for the rich under the Trump administration rolled back taxes for corporations to the point where companies like Amazon can get away with paying zero in federal taxes. And so in comes Senators Elizabeth Warren and Angus King, along with Representative Don Beyer from Virginia. And they announced in their bill that they dubbed the Real Corporate Profits Tax Act of 2021, that lawmakers said that the measure will ensure the country's biggest companies do not get away with paying nothing in taxes. That sounds great. No one should get away with paying nothing in taxes unless your income is so low that paying anything in taxes would further worsen your situation. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about wealthy corporations that have gotten away with paying nothing in taxes. The lawmakers said the bill will apply to more than 1,000 public companies and all private companies reporting more than $100 million in book income to shareholders. Under the bill, which Democrats said would raise roughly $700 billion in revenue over 10 years, a 7% surtax would be implemented per dollar in book income above $100 million. So is this good? Is this bad? How do I feel about it? I think that this is pretty weak. I think that it's incredibly weak, in fact. I think the likelihood of this bill passing is slim. And if these lawmakers want to use any political capital on anything worthwhile, they should focus on something else. So I'll give you those details, but first I want to make it abundantly clear, no cookies. No cookies for you, I'm sorry. So let's put that last graphic back up again because there's an important number that I want you all to focus on. So it would raise roughly $700 billion in revenue over 10 years. Okay. You know what would actually raise a lot more revenue in 10 years? Reversing the tax cuts for corporations that were implemented in 2017 under the Trump administration. Those tax cuts for the rich cost the federal government nearly $2 trillion in revenue. Let me say that again. That tax cut for the rich bill that was passed under the Trump administration has robbed the American people of $2 trillion in revenue because these corporations got a massive tax cut. Their tax rate went from 35% to 21%. 35% to 21%. And now we're having a conversation about like, well, because of like the corporate tax loopholes that are still in place, all those corporate deductions that these companies can take, because of the incredibly low corporate tax rate, they're paying nothing. They're getting tax refunds in some cases. So why don't we just do a minimum tax of 7%? No, 7% is not good. Not good. Why are we adding more to the tax code with this proposal, if it miraculously passes, by the way, when in reality, we could do something as simple as, I don't know, follow through with what Biden promised he would do when he was campaigning for president, which was reverse the tax cuts for the rich and for corporations. Now, he hasn't done that. In fact, one of the first things that Biden did when he got elected was put out his infrastructure proposal, which proposed to increase corporate taxes from the current 21% to only 28%. Why didn't he want to go back to 35%? That's what he promised when he was campaigning. So Biden certainly doesn't get any cookies, that's for sure. But Senator Warren, come on. I love it. I mean, I love the way that she debates these corporate goons during Senate hearings. I love some of her policy proposals. I think she does good work. However, this is weak sauce. Not good enough. Not good enough. The fact that Trump's tax cuts for the rich remain in place is shameful. And to not reverse that and instead propose a minimum tax of 7%, I just think doesn't go far enough, not nearly far enough. So let's talk a little bit about CEO pay and how much these corporations have gotten away with essentially paying nothing in taxes. So CEO pay in the United States rose by a staggering 1,322% between 1978 and 2020, a sharp contrast to the pay increase of the typical worker, which was just 18% during that same period. So these companies increase profits. They don't invest in paying their workers more, of course not, because they're looking out for their shareholders. So then they turn around and they increase the pay for their executives, for their CEOs. They give a nice return to their shareholders. And they also get to enjoy these massive tax cuts. Why? In 2020, a year of pandemic and widespread economic dislocation, the top executives at the largest public firms in the United States were paid 351 times as much as the typical worker, with CEO pay measured by salary, bonuses, long-term incentive payouts, and exercise stock options. CEO to worker pay ratio was 61:1 in 1989. Oh, that's fascinating. So it gives you a sense of just how bad the situation has gotten, just how much inequality has grown since the 1970s. And so obviously they can afford to pay more in taxes, no? I mean, if CEOs can see their income rise by a staggering 1,322% since 1978, maybe some of that money could be used on taxes. Yeah, maybe they should pay their fair share. I'm not talking about 7%. I'm not talking about a measly 7% minimum tax. I mean, this bill is essentially proposing that corporations get taxed for not paying their taxes. How about they just pay their taxes? How about that? Let me give you more. A corporation can reduce its taxable income by deducting insurance premiums, travel expenses, bad debts. Wait, let's stop right there. Oh, they can deduct bad debts? So they owe less in taxes? Cool, can we do that? How many of us get to deduct our credit card debt? None of us, that's not a thing. So why do they get to deduct their bad debt? These are what we're talking about when we talk about corporate tax loopholes. Let's continue. They can also deduct interest payments, sales taxes, amazing. Fuel taxes and excise taxes. Tax preparation fees, legal services, bookkeeping, and advertising costs can also be used to reduce business income. How about we close some of those loopholes? How about that? That'd be fun. I think that's a far better solution than allowing for these companies to get away with paying a minimum 7% tax. So again, 7% is not enough. It's better than the situation we find ourselves in because, again, there are several major corporations that bring in millions of dollars every year in profit, and they're not paying anything in federal taxes. But it's still not good enough. In fact, 55 corporations paid nothing in federal taxes in 2020. They would have paid a collective total of $8.5 billion in 2020 had they paid that rate on their 2020 income. Instead, they received $3.5 billion in tax rebates, meaning tax refunds. They're supposed to pay $8.5 billion in taxes in 2020. Instead, they get a $3.5 billion refund. I mean, it's infuriating. Tax breaks for renewable energy are part of the tax avoidance scheme for several companies, including all of these fossil fuel companies. Duke Energy, DTE, Xcel Energy, why are they getting tax credits for renewable energy? Is that being investigated? I mean, the IRS is certainly underfunded on purpose, so they don't do the necessary audits on the wealthiest tax dodgers. But it's fascinating to see fossil fuel companies take advantage of tax credits for renewable energy. A provision in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that's the tax cut law that was passed under the Trump administration, allowing companies to immediately write off capital investments. The most extreme version of accelerated depreciation helped several companies reduce their income tax substantially. Consolidated Edison, Williams, PPL, and Sealed Air all used depreciation tax breaks to substantially reduce current income tax expenses, as did at least a dozen other companies. Look, I'm giving you this dense sounding content right now because the point here is you have corporate tax loopholes, you have a severely lowered corporate tax rate because of what Trump did in his administration. And the response from Democrats like Senator Elizabeth Warren is, we should just implement a minimum tax of 7%. No cookies, that's not good enough. That's my point. So again, this is not a personal attack on anyone, but it is an attack on weak sauce proposals that A, are unlikely to go anywhere, but B, are not even likely to provide a Band-Aid to the gushing wound that we're experiencing in America right now, with increasing inequality and with a system that continues to reward bad behavior at the very top while punishing workers and the poor. So we can't just say, look, it's something, it's better than nothing, it's better than what Republicans are doing. That's a super low bar. We deserve more. We, in the very least, deserve what Biden campaigned on, which was to reverse, I should say, those tax cuts for the rich. All right, we got to go to break. When we come back, we'll talk about the defund the police moment on the Senate floor yesterday. You don't want to miss it. Come right back. Welcome back to our social break. Let's do a rapid fire round of some super chats, starting with Kaylee, who says, cronies in Congress, Senate, and media act like Limp Bizkit's Break Stuff is a manifesto on how to govern. Change my mind. I like the Limp Bizkit reference. The W writes in and says, hey guys, would TYT ever be interested in a field person that can go from country to country? It's my dream and I would like to talk with TYT before. I like that you're applying for a job right now, live on air. I don't make those hiring decisions, but TYT is always looking to expand, and whenever we have a new plan in mind in regard to like field reporters, we announce it, and we always like to rely on our viewers and our fans to fill those roles rather than going to corporate media types. So definitely keep your eyes open. If we announce anything, it'll be very clear. But yeah, I mean, I would love to get more on the ground international reporting. The question is, will we have the resources for it? And I don't know the answer to that. Peter Hamby writes in with another sweet haiku. Manchin has concerns, but the press won't press his gripe. His sabotage reigns. It's true. It's true. But that's the thing about Manchin, right? Like he just like crumbles under pressure. And I think that if Democrats like start to aggressively call him out and also campaign and rally in favor of the $3.5 trillion bill, I think when push comes to shove, he will cave. We'll just see if they're willing to do that. Lee W, thank you so much for the super chat. Nicholas writes in and says, as a nurse, I cannot donate or vote for any Democrat again. They stabbed us in the back. Once they got power, I'm done. I know there are a lot of people that are frustrated. For me, I think the outcome of the $3.5 trillion budget bill will say a lot regarding the future of the Democratic Party. Economicon says deducting bad debt is writing off debts that are owed to them, not debt they don't want to pay. That's interesting. I still don't agree. I still don't agree with that tax deduction. Anyway, all right, so, and many of the other tax deductions that corporations are able to take advantage of. Twitch subs, just wanna thank our Twitch audience. Eldermind Pulse gifted 50 subs. Dave Schmidt gifted 2 subs. Barkley T gifted a sub. Mayhem Mendez, 10 months prime with how's my fave TYT people doing today? I hope I'm one of your faves. Doing pretty good, a little tired. Didn't get a lot of sleep last night, but doing pretty good. All right, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to TYT. Just want to thank Eldermind Pulse in our Twitch community because 50 subs, that's amazing, that's fire. I love it. Thank you so much for supporting us and for being such a wonderful part of our Twitch community. For those of you who are like, Twitch community, what's that? You can check that out at twitch.tv/TYT. All right, moving on to our next story. While the Senate is debating the budget resolution bill, all of a sudden you hear a Republican lawmaker, Tommy Tuberville, go up on the Senate floor and say something that Cory Booker was in favor of. Cory Booker considered it a gift. Well, what did Tommy Tuberville propose? Let's watch.
I call on my colleagues to support our law enforcement by voting yes for this amendment. Opposing my amendment is a vote in support of defunding the police and against the men and women in blue.
Now, these proposals, these amendments to the budget resolution are non-binding. So this is mostly a symbolic waste of time action taken by the Senate. It's theater. It's meant to provide content for future political ads. That's all this is. So it's a symbolic vote. That's an important thing to keep in mind. It's non-binding. And my guess is that Senator Tuberville was under the impression that Democrats would vote against his proposal, his amendment, right? And his amendment, of course, proposes to punish cities that defund the police. But then immediately after he gives that speech, Senator Cory Booker takes the floor, and here's his reaction.
Madam President.
Senator from New Jersey.
I am so excited. This is perhaps the highlight of this long and painful and torturous night. This is a gift. If it wasn't complete abdication of Senate procedures and esteem, I would walk over there and hug my colleague from Alabama. And I will tell you right now, thank God, because there's some people who have said that they're members of this deliberative body that want to defund the police, to my horror. And now this senator has given us the gift that finally, once and for all, we can put to bed this scurrilous accusation that somebody in this great esteemed body would want to defund the police. So let all of us, 100 people, not walk, but sashay down there and vote for this amendment and put to rest the lies. And I am sure I will see no political ads attacking anybody here over defund the police. And I would ask unanimous consent to add something else to this obvious bill. Can we add also that every senator here wants to defund the police, believes in God, country, and apple pie?
What was that? Well, the amendment proposed by Tommy Tuberville did pass with 99 senators voting in favor of it. Every single Democratic lawmaker voted in favor of this non-binding amendment, which claims to want to punish cities that defund the police. Now, why? Why would Democrats vote in favor of that? Aren't Democrats in favor of defunding the police? Well, here's the thing. While Cory Booker has been part of a proposal to reform policing in America, I haven't found any evidence that he's ever said that he agrees with defunding the police. So I wanted to find that video. I'm like, there's gotta be something out there where he's supportive of that measure. There might be, I haven't found it. However, what the Republicans were trying to do here was they were attempting to get Democratic senators to vote against the amendment so they can later turn around and campaign against these Democrats by claiming they're supportive of defunding the police. Now, if you look at polling, it indicates that the majority of Americans do not want to defund the police. And then you couple that with the rising crime rates across the country, and you kind of see a better picture of why Cory Booker reacted the way that he did and why Democratic lawmakers in the Senate voted the way that they did for this non-binding amendment. So I want to give you some of that polling right now. Only 18% of respondents in a recent USA Today Ipsos poll supported the movement known as Defund the Police, and 58% said that they actually opposed it. Though white Americans, 67%, and Republicans, 84%, were much more likely to oppose the movement, only 28% of Black Americans and 34% of Democrats were in favor of it. So according to this USA Today Ipsos poll, only 28% of Black Americans are in favor of defunding the police. Let me give you more. The responses were even more negative with Americans, when Americans, I should say, were asked if they thought the police should be abolished or eliminated, with 67% overall saying that they were opposed, including a majority of Black Americans and Democrats. And the numbers changed a little bit when the question was framed not as defunding the police, but redirecting police funding to other social services. Respondents were less opposed to the idea of redirecting police funds to social services, though a 57% majority was still against the idea. 43% of Americans supported the idea. So there are two things happening right now. Number one, I think the Democrats are paying attention to the polling. I think they're paying attention to the rising crime rates, and that partially at least motivated their decision to vote along with Republicans in the Senate on this non-binding amendment. But I also don't want to give Democrats too much credit, Because the fact of the matter is they do seem to make decisions based on fear. And their fear here was that they were gonna get attacked by GOP lawmakers who are gonna attack them anyway, regardless of how they voted on this non-binding amendment. They're going to blame rising crime rates on Democrats anyway. They're gonna claim that Democratic lawmakers wanna defund the police anyway. So my advice to Democratic lawmakers would be, don't lead from a place of fear, lead from a place of strength. In this case, it seems like they're paying attention to polling and they're doing what they think their own constituents would be in favor of. But when it comes to most of their actions, certainly in the last several years, they're so afraid of what Republicans are gonna say about them, what conservative media is gonna say about them. Oh, they're gonna call us social. I got news for you. They called Joe Biden. Joe Biden, the guy who successfully passed the bankruptcy bill as a senator, they call him a socialist. They're gonna call Democrats any name they can imagine. If Democrats are gonna be concerned about that and they're gonna base their leadership on how fearful they are of criticism from Republicans, they're gonna suffer. So in this case, regardless of how you feel about defunding the police, you look at how the majority of people in the country feel about it, and I think Democrats are just listening to that. But it is also kind of interesting that Cory Booker, who did in fact propose police reform, hasn't really done much to push for it. Here is a tweet from July of 2020 where he said, "We must not allow a movement of this magnitude to lose momentum." Remember, this is when there were mass protests across the country with Black Lives Matter. "As the news coverage shifts away from our fight to end systemic racism, Black lives still matter and real change is still needed. We can start by passing the Justice in Policing Act." Yeah, you can start with that. The question is when? When are you gonna start with that? Because proposing something and then tweeting about it and then forgetting about it is not fighting for police reform. So I do think police reform is definitely necessary. I think defund the police has become a phrase that Americans are against, but this isn't even about defunding the police at this point. It's about reforming police, and that hasn't even started to happen. There hasn't really been much of a fight in Congress in this regard. And so I think there's plenty of blame to be directed at Democrats in dropping the ball on that issue. But do I blame them for voting the way they did on a non-binding amendment that Republicans were gonna use for their campaign purposes? Not really, just keeping it real. All right, we got one more story for you before we end the first hour. So let's talk about these anti-maskers. Anti-maskers surrounded health experts during a school board meeting in Tennessee. This is during a Williamson County School Board meeting, and they voted to require masks in elementary schools. So let's take a quick look at this video with sound so you get a sense of just how threatening these individuals were toward the health experts who were at this meeting.
Keep it calm. No more masks. We're on these guys' side. They're on our side.
No, they're not. They're not on our side.
The police are on our side. The police are on our side. Let's calm down.
Yes.
Calm down. We know who you are. We know who you are. You can leave freely, but we will find you, and we know who you are.
You'll never be allowed in public again. You will never be allowed. You'll never let us be allowed in public again.
I know who you are. Let them out. Let's let them out. Come on. Keep it calm.
So those were pretty clear threats toward a medical expert, health expert who attended the meeting to provide advice on how the school district should proceed with elementary schools. Now, elementary school students are not getting vaccinated right now. The vaccine has not been approved for children that young. So kids aren't getting vaccinated. And in an attempt to protect them from the Delta variant and variants that are likely to come after the Delta variant, school district decided, you know what, maybe we need to do a mask mandate for elementary school students. In middle schools and high schools, it's optional. But this is specifically about elementary schools, and it's specifically meant to protect kids and the adults that they live with from getting very sick, potentially dying from coronavirus. So the decision came after an emotionally charged 4-hour meeting with frequent disruptions by crowd members opposed to mask requirements and tensions running high among all. A majority of people who attended the meeting were maskless and interjected with personal comments dozens of times throughout the meeting. Only one person was escorted out by Williamson County deputies, but dozens of anti-masking parents followed in support. I mean, good, be gone. But anyway, but there is some positive news because one of the administrators, one of the officials for the school district disclosed some of the email that she's been receiving in regard to this issue. So her name is Nancy Garrett. She is the school board chair, and she received 781 emails from people requesting mask requirements and 348 emails from people who didn't want the mandate. So look, oftentimes the squeaky wheel gets the attention. And in this case, it appears that the anti-maskers who decided to show up to the school board meeting and then threaten health experts are the squeaky wheel. Seems like most of the parents, at least most of the parents who have written in to the school board chair, do in fact want mask mandates to keep their children and themselves safe from this virus. Now, are kids getting super sick from coronavirus, from this Delta variant? Turns out, yes, there are cases of children who end up getting hospitalized after they contract this virus. Since school began on Friday, 25 elementary students had tested positive for COVID-19. Hasn't even been a week yet. And already we have cases, dozens of cases of students testing positive for COVID-19. And I believe we have one more video that shows you how rapidly kids are getting sick as they show up for school unmasked and unfortunately are exposed to the virus. Let's watch.
So soon after school started back up again, Washington County yesterday reported 50 positive cases among students and staff and 194 students and staff currently in quarantine. That's even a jump, Joe, from the day before when they had 41 positive cases and 169 quarantining. So those numbers are ticking up. And in this region of the Appalachian Highlands, the hospital system here, Ballad Health, told me that yesterday, of their positive cases that they saw in their service area, 29% of them were those under the age of 18.
People under the age of 18 are now getting sick. Some of them are getting hospitalized. We know that we still have issues with so-called vaccine hesitancy in many of these red states. So your child will go to school, possibly contract the virus, bring it home. It's a virus, it's contagious. I get it, wearing the masks sucks. I hate wearing the masks. I can't stand it, just keeping it real. But I also don't like being sick. I don't like spreading a virus to innocent people who might suffer significantly from it, who might get hospitalized from it, who might end up dead as a result. I see it as my duty as an American, as a human, as someone who cares about people around me, to just wear the mask and be done with it. The fact that this has become such a difficult issue is exhausting, and it's incredibly insulting to the healthcare professionals, to the frontline workers in these hospitals who haven't even gotten a break in the last 18 months, who risk their own lives to take care of people who are hospitalized with a virus that could have been prevented if they just wore a damn mask or if they just got vaccinated. No, my heart goes out to them because the first few weeks of this pandemic, You got people in New York City clapping for healthcare workers, for frontline hospital workers as they're going to work. You have people paying lip service, pretending like they care about these individuals. But our actions certainly don't show it. Because if we actually value these people who, again, put their lives on the line every day to make sure everyone else gets better, we wouldn't make something as simple as wearing a damn mask a huge issue. But we live in America. Hyper-individualism, who cares about everyone else? We can't do something in a collectivist way if our lives depended on it, literally. And it's embarrassing and shameful, especially on a global stage. All right, that does it for hour one. When we come back, John Iadarola will join me to talk about a fake cop overdose and more. Stay tuned.
I'm old enough that I remember when Captain Crunch put the berries in it.
Yay, Crunch berries!
And I was like, ooh, the fake berries.
Remember?
We're gonna try that.
We did a story back in the day about how a woman sued, I don't know, General Mills.
She'd been eating it for 4 years, believing that it was actual berries. Yeah. She's like, these aren't real berries at all. I'm like, I got news for you. Captain Crunch isn't really a captain or a person. Joining me now, legendary whistleblower and American hero, Edward Snowden. First question is, hey, where are you?
I'm in my apartment in Moscow.
All of a sudden, in the studio, Jim Gaffigan, everybody.
Mental illness is, completely undiagnosed in our society.
It's not about a particular administration. It's about a broken system of power, and through that, really, the instrumentalization of a system of not justice, but injustice.
People understand whether they claim to deny climate change or not. Our collective house is in crisis. We're also dealing with the legacy of 40 years of economic policies that have made people's lives more precarious.
Sometimes you got to force people into their humanity. Sometimes you have to shake people into empathy.
Senator Elizabeth Warren joins us in the studio.
Healthcare is a basic human right, and we are fighting for basic human rights.
In order to actually achieve that vision of everyone having access to the same resources and getting to determine the outcome of their life, we have a lot of work to do, and it needs to start right now.
Here's something you may not know. When you deposit your money in a big bank, it doesn't just sit, safe and secure, in a vault. Instead, your money could end up building oil pipelines, mining for coal, or drilling in the Arctic. So if you're concerned about the planet, give your money something good to do. Make the move to green with Aspirations Fossil Fuel Free account and join the thousands each week who are switching to save their dollars and save the planet at the same time.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola. This is gonna be a big one.
What Donald Trump has done as president has cut taxes for the wealthy and made life better for rich people. But he's made life worse for poor people.
We're making America great again by throwing more money at the military to destroy other countries because that makes us great instead of investing it in ourselves.
That it's Donald Trump and it's Stephen Miller. The choosing is based on wanting to create cruel and inhumane conditions to scare other people away from ever coming to the United States.
The opportunity to make money off of tragedy is the American way.
There's only one place to put garbage people: in the trash.
We've never had so much access to so much information with so little idea of what the hell is going on.
What does enforcing our borders have to do with traumatizing children? Absolutely nothing.
I think a sane person could say the current situation we have right now is radical. But what we're doing is literally making the world more like hell. That's a warning sign.
ShopTYT.com now has books. One of them is Ryan Grimm's book, We've Got People. That's a saying that AOC said, they've got money, we've got people. It's the best tracing of the AOC victory I have seen anywhere. It's the most accurate, and it's got great details. The book actually goes all the way back to Jesse Jackson and how he's the original Bernie Sanders. If you want to know how we're gonna win going forward, those lessons are super important, and they're in Ryan's book. So check it out right now at ShopTYT.com. We found the perfect person to lead the army, Allison Hartson.
The establishment media works hand in glove with our corporate legislators, and our corporate legislators work hand in glove with the corporation. And we're going to make it so that it's a decentralized force throughout the country so that we can quickly identify stories, quickly identify troll farms, and go in and neutralize the enemy, and then start building responsible media throughout the country and on every platform available.
You're messing with my Zen thing, man.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to hour 2. I just saw something that got me really excited, John, other than the fact that you're here with us.
I know what it is.
What is it? No,
well, that's very nice of you, but I know what it is.
What is it?
I think it's a reminder of the conversation. Is it?
No.
Oh.
What conversation?
Your awesome conversation.
With Aaron?
Yes.
Well, first of all, I didn't know.
See how excited she just got?
Yeah. No, with Aaron? I had like one of my favorite interviews of all time with Aaron Wysocki.
See, I'm not wrong.
He's the head of content distribution here at TYT, and he went to Woodstock 99.
That's all it takes.
And it was the entire, you know how sometimes with the conversation, which airs right before the main show, they'll do like 2 interviews in the entire episode. Yeah. I was like, no, not 2 interviews. I want Aaron and Aaron alone. I want to talk to him for the full episode and ask him all sorts of questions about his experience. So definitely check that out if you haven't already.
So that wasn't it?
That wasn't it.
What was it?
Riverboat Jack on Twitch gifted 5 subs.
Nice.
And I love her. She's great. I watch her show. I watch her streams.
I don't know this one.
She's
What's
great.
The streams? What does she do?
She's a smaller streamer. So I'm gonna be the hipster in this conversation and say like, I was watching Riverboat Jack before anyone else was, okay? I mean, she's got a fan base, don't get me wrong. But she's gonna blow up at some point. And she says, gotta throw money at the network, formative in my political development.
Well, that is awesome. I get why that's the thing that makes you most excited. That's awesome.
Yeah, super cool. I love it. Thank you for that. Anyway, let's move on to our next story, which I love this update because I knew it. Anyway, so the San Diego County Sheriff's Department recently released a video claiming that one of their deputies had suffered from a fentanyl overdose simply by being in close contact with the drug. Now, he didn't consume the drug. He didn't, I don't know how you consume fentanyl. I got to be honest with you.
Well, it's 3 ways. The best would be, I don't know.
But the point is, during his policing duties, he came into contact with it, and then he suffered. He had an overdose, and it was a scary experience. Let's take a look at that video, and then I'll tell you what actual professionals and health experts had to say about it.
It's okay, just focus on your breathing, okay? Focus on it. I need Narcan!
I'm Corporal Scott Crane from the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. My trainee was exposed to fentanyl and nearly died. It was our first radio call of the day, and this was Deputy Five Eyes' radio call. He found a white substance that he suspected was drugs.
Yeah, it's a powder.
It could be cocaine or fentanyl. It tested positive for fentanyl. This stuff's no joke, dude. It's super dangerous.
I was like, hey, dude, too close. You can't get that close to it. A couple seconds later, he took some steps back and he collapsed. I ran over to him and I grabbed him, and he was ODing. And I went to my trunk, I grabbed the Narcan, came down to him, grabbed him, and I did one nasal spray in one nostril, opened the other one, another nasal spray in the other one.
I need Narcan! I got you, I got you.
I'm trying to not let him go. Like I wanted him to know he wasn't alone. It's an invisible killer. He would have died in that parking lot if he was alone. Fire department got there, put him on the gurney. His eyes rolled back in his head, and he started to OD again. And he was ODing the whole way to the hospital.
I don't think people realize the severity of just how deadly it really is. I'm Deputy David Five Eye, and I almost died of a fentanyl overdose.
So there are health experts who have weighed in on this, and they're like, no, that's not what happened. Which is why listen, I don't know what happened to that deputy, okay? It seems like he experienced something, and I don't want to minimize what he was experiencing, although I will say that it is highly, highly unlikely that he overdosed from fentanyl. So, John, before I give you the thoughts of actual medical professionals, why don't you jump in?
Me being very much not a medical professional, although I'll point out I have watched every episode of House several times. Yeah, I feel the same way as you. While the most likely explanation seems to be that this is just elaborate propaganda or whatever. Look,
why?
I'm a soft-hearted lefty, so when I see someone like shaking on the ground, I feel bad, and we feel this stupid knee-jerk need to consider all options, add the nuance, try to like all that. There's no benefit of it or whatever, but so maybe it's what they said it is, but I mean the whole thing looked a little bit convenient. Look, some of it is in post, that like swelling natural music of the whole thing, the spa music.
Sail away,
okay.
Sail away,
exactly.
Sail away.
So, okay, that's in post. But like, as Craig was pointing out, they got every shot they needed. And since when does a body cam do portrait mode? Come on, it was a little bit convenient with the cinematography. The whole thing just seemed so staged.
What I'm trying to figure out is what I do think, look, if I had to bet my money on it, and this is me speculating, I speculate that this is nonsense and he did not.
Maybe he thinks he did, in which case I feel bad for him.
And there's a possibility that he genuinely thinks he did. And I'll get to that in a second because there's an actual medical term for that. But what I was trying to say is, if I had to bet money, I would bet money that it was not a fentanyl overdose and it was meant for propaganda purposes, but why? Like, what is that propaganda supposed to do?
Terrifies you of drugs. It makes you feel really bad for the cops.
That's a good point.
And the cops who are investigating the drug stuff, you will come to think of it not as them being like the strong arm of the government in selectively enforcing drug laws in certain areas and not others, on certain drugs and not others. And it's this multi-decade thing of, like basically racial animus weaponized into a drug war. No, instead, they are going into danger, into war. At any point, they could OD, even accidentally. So you'll feel bad for them rather than question why we're doing this in the first place.
I mean, look, if they get the vapors from just being in the same vicinity of fentanyl, I can kind of understand why they're so quick, they're so trigger happy and quick to like shoot their guns at like any perceived threat. But anyway, who cares what we think? Okay, let's actually hear from people who know what they're talking about. Medical professionals have pushed back, saying there's no evidence that incidental contact, drugs coming in contact with skin or through inhalation with fentanyl can trigger an overdose. A couple hundred signed an online petition calling for retraction of the video and the news coverage that focused on it. Sheriff Bill Gore, though, said that he is not a doctor, but he determined that the deputy did in fact suffer from an overdose. So here's Sheriff Bill Gore saying, I saw the video. Everybody saw the video, saw him seize up, go down, fall on his head. The drugs tested for fentanyl. It was classic signs of fentanyl overdose. That's why we called it that.
That doesn't prove what he says it proves, though.
It, in fact, does not. You're right. And well, what could have happened, right? So if you want to interpret all of this in a generous way, if you want to give the police the benefit of the doubt, there is something known as the nocebo, which is different from a placebo. A nocebo effect could explain what's going on in this incident, said Dr. Ryan Marino, medical director of toxicology at the University Hospitals of Cleveland. I can say from watching that video, he is not having an overdose. So what is a nocebo? So it's an incident where an officer believes that a substance could harm him and imagined the whole feeling or effect of that drug, right? So a placebo is when you think a drug is working in a positive way. Nocebo is something that you came into contact with, the drug that you came into contact with or consumed. affected you in a negative way, right?
So yeah, it's entirely possible. It is possible that he has internalized the same sort of fear mongering about it that they are trying to do in that video, and thus you react the way you think that you're supposed to. I remember as a very young guy, my friend and I found a bottle of, I think it was, I don't remember exactly what it was, but we drank the whole thing. We acted all goofy and we were all drunk. It was non-alcoholic. But we thought that it was. Now that would be a placebo because we actually did consume the thing, but we thought we were supposed to act away. Turns out it's just as fun. So now I wish I could still do that. Unfortunately, I can't. I have to use the real thing and I do heavily, but that's possible. And again, that doesn't mean that we can't have empathy for him. Although using the term the vapor sort of sends that out the window, but I do feel empathy for him. I just don't, once you turn it into propaganda and release it out there to provide an effect, regardless of what he may have felt or not felt, the effect of this video is obviously negative.
Exactly, yeah, no, absolutely. And look, if this is so, it's illustrative of a common issue we have in America, not just with cops, but like our mindset on most things. We see problems, and instead of focusing on the root causes of the problem, we think about what band-aids we can use. Like, I don't know what band-aid this police department wants to put on the very real problem of opioid overdoses, fentanyl overdoses. That hasn't gone away, guys. Like that has only gotten worse during the pandemic, and it is a serious problem. These are deaths of despair. And so rather than addressing what leads to these deaths of despair, whether it be the awful economic conditions that people live in, whether it be overprescribing opioids, like those are the things that should be talked about and addressed. Putting out the fear-mongering videos, you're right. I mean, it doesn't help in any way. It only further stigmatizes people. You think people make that decision? You think people who are in the right state of mind are like, yeah, man, I want to use fentanyl. Like people think it's a lifestyle choice? Come on. So I certainly have a problem with that. Like what the main purpose of that video was. And let's please listen to the health experts. I know, like there's a weird pushback against medical professionals these days, but I guarantee you they know more than we do. And I'm pretty sure he didn't die, or he didn't nearly die of an overdose there. It's amazing.
Seems like it.
Anyway, when we come back, we've got maskless monsters. Don't miss it. Welcome to our social break. I wanted to read a comment that someone tweeted to me because I thought it was important. It was in regard to tax deductions that corporations can take. Dana Kramer, thank you. So this is the comment. One example of bad debt being written off is charity care at hospitals. This includes care rejected by Medicare and Medicaid and other insurers. I am 100% in favor of being able to write off that bad debt. But that's clearly different from corporations that engage in all sorts of shady behavior, writing off their bad debt. So, obviously that situation can be easily mitigated by having a single payer healthcare system that doesn't reject the needs of Americans who go to the doctor. But in the meantime, I think we should close that loophole specifically for corporations who take advantage of it to ensure that they don't pay taxes on their profits. All right, let's go to Theater Goddess, who says, we can't blame Trump's tax cuts for successful companies not paying taxes. Successful companies were able to avoid taxes and get money back from the government for decades before the latest monstrosity made it worse. I agree with you. My argument in the context of the story that we covered was Warren proposing a 7% minimum tax is not nearly enough, and that just reversing Trump's tax cuts for the rich would do far more, right? Because as Warren herself notes, her proposal would bring in $700 billion in the next 10 years. Reversing Trump's tax cuts for the rich would bring in $2 trillion in the next 10 years. So that's the point that I was trying to make. But if I were, I would go further, obviously, and closing some of those corporate tax loopholes is the direction that I would go in after reversing Trump's tax cuts for the rich.
Did you mention the attempted amendment last night of to pay for the $3.5 trillion? They should look into raising taxes on the top 0.1%. Did you see who voted against it?
A bunch of Democrats.
Well, the two that I know, Jeanne Shaheen and Kyrsten Sinema.
Yep, of course.
It's not even a binding thing. It's just we should look into it. No, I want to make sure that you know. 0.1%, no taxes.
No, she's made herself clear. Kyrsten Sinema has told her constituents who are not in favor of the way she's been acting lately that they can go ahead and buzz off.
Yep.
Over and over again. It's fascinating stuff. All right, 30 seconds. Okay, so the dragon who says "nigh," way to go, or knee. The dragon who says knee.
It's a movie reference.
Okay, way to go, Corey, you got them, because this will totally stop attack ads from people who called Biden a communist. Yeah, you're right, it won't. They're gonna attack anyway, that's what Republicans do. It's politics, so it is what it is. Anyway, we gotta get back to the show. We'll see you guys there. Welcome back to TYT. Anna Kasparian and John Iadarola with you. Quick programming note, it's Wednesday, which means after the bonus episode for our members, and you can become a member by clicking on that join button. You can enjoy Happy Half Hour with Brett Ehrlich. I don't want to give too much away, but there might be a fun poll pertaining to fast food burgers. I don't know. I don't know if it's definitely going to happen today.
Bracket.
Oof. You guys got to check it out. Twitch.tv/TYT. Good news and good booze every Wednesday after the bonus episode. Definitely check that out. Also, quick comment in our super chat section from Steph Liz, who says, I'm a doctor. Dr. Marino, who we talked about in the context of that police fentanyl overdose story, is well known and brilliant. He likely had a syncopal episode from anxiety. Syncopal episode from anxiety. I don't know what that is, but it sounds about right. If it was so easy to OD, users wouldn't need needles to inject, and we'd have dead healthcare workers.
I think it's syncopal, and that is based on my watching House.
Dude, I gotta watch more House, I guess. Syncopal. All right, thank you.
I know of syncope. I assume it's related.
All right, well, thank you for your comment. And I thought that was such a devastating point. I'm a little embarrassed that I didn't make it. So let's move on to our next story. An anti-masker in Arcadia, California thought it would be a great idea to push around workers at a grocery store. Now, the owner of this grocery store, it's known as H Mart, is a Korean man, and he was trying to get this guy out of the store. He was trying to protect his workers, but this unfortunate man just would not budge. Let's watch.
Get the hell out of here! No one wants you here! Even customer said get out. It is illegal. Don't get on my customer. Don't touch me. My customer. You're being aggressive to us right now. You need to get out. Go ahead. Get out. Get out. This is my job. Every customer complain. Because of you. No. I don't. Every customer complain. No. You want to make a say that? Get out. Get out. Don't you dare come. Every customer complain. What do you mean? He just assaulted me. No, he didn't. I saw the whole thing. I saw the whole thing. Get out. No, he didn't. Trash you. You're the one that doesn't want to wear a mask right now. We're all wearing
Every customer complains.
You want to to her? Go back. Get the out. Trash.
Get out. Get out. No. Get out.
Just leave. Just go.
Just go. Just go.
But, he didn't leave until they called the cops. At that point, he walked out of the store, but stayed immediately, like he was outside of the store. He didn't leave for good. And the cops decided that they wouldn't arrest him or anything. They just let him go afterwards. Look, there's so many of these videos and so many of these stories. And the reason why I decided that we should show you that video is because every single time you hear arguments about workers being lazy for not wanting to go back to their service industry jobs because they just want to sit on their butts and collect unemployment. No, how about you listen to the workers? Because the workers are treated like absolute crap. Okay, I mean, The Daily, which is the podcast for the New York Times, did a really good podcast episode on this issue last week where they actually talked to the workers who aren't going back to work, who want to just completely change their careers. Some of them have been, bartenders for years and years. Like, I'm not doing it. Some of them have worked as servers. I'm not doing it. It was already difficult enough with how people abuse them, but during a pandemic where everyone seems to feel entitled, they're treated even worse.
Yeah.
Honestly, we're monsters in some cases, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah, the way these people are acting, I mean, there's always been some people that act that way, but it does seem to be getting worse in stores like that, in restaurants, on airplanes. We're getting worse. And I'm sure that it's not entirely conservatives, but it does seem to be a lot conservatives. And when you combine that with Fox demonizing any effort, even half-hearted under the Democrats this year, to improve the lot of workers as some plot, mocking the idea of wanting to raise wages, saying that you care about coal miners and ignoring for months their protest. This is a populist right-wing movement that despises workers, which seems weird and doesn't seem to get talked about nearly enough.
That's such a good point.
They act as if there's this economic anxiety, but it is entirely detached from anyone out there working, or whether they should have their lot in life improved, whether their conditions should be improved. How do you maintain that? I mean, I guess they are. I guess they're doing okay or whatever, but it doesn't make any sense to me. These people hate those who actually have to work for a wage. They care about, in the abstract, factories getting closed down, and sometimes they seem to care about unemployment if it goes up, but only in the abstract, like QAnon with pedophiles. They don't care about any of the specific instances, they just care about the concept, sort of.
Well, I mean, they might not care about specific instances, but they do care about how these types of things impact their investments. Let's keep it real, right? I think.
But again, that has nothing to do with workers.
Of course not.
Yeah.
We're talking about Republicans.
Yeah.
You think Republicans care about workers?
No, but I think that there are some in the mainstream media, credulous members of the mainstream media, that are pretending that people like Tucker Carlson are a part of a new right-wing populism that is supposed to. It's supposed to care. It's not.
No, you're wrong. That's true of indie media. I'm seeing a lot of that.
No, it's all the glossy write-ups of Tucker Carlson about him being a more serious intellectual. You need to engage with the way he thinks and the way he communicates. Maybe I'm focusing on it too much, I guess. But I see it's twice a year. The New York Times, the Washington Post will have some big write-up about how. Anyway, I'm getting too focused on this.
No, but to be fair, Glenn Greenwald does say that Tucker Carlson's a socialist, so.
Let's go. I want to see more socialists on TV, so I guess that's a good thing. But anyway, with that guy, there is clearly something wrong in American society where you've seen that the way he was acting before. He goes from person to person looking for some way to look tough. He just wants to salvage. He realizes nobody's on his side. He looks ridiculous. This is not going the way that he wanted it to go. He imagined he was showing how strong and tough and patriotic he is, but it's not working out. They're lost. It's a lost generation. It's like 3 generations back, but it's lost.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for some, the mask rules within some of these stores or businesses just gives them an excuse to act out in a way that they want to act out anyway. Like, I sometimes feel like it's much less about the mask and more about being able to push back against something. Because look, I've worked in the service industry before, right? And I know what it's like to come across a customer who's had a bad day, and you deal with the brunt of that customer's bad day. And so I think this pandemic has led to a lot of frustration for people. They're looking for a release, and they go and attack essential workers. I mean, like, imagine if these grocery stores weren't open. If essential workers are like, no, we're gonna shut it down. We don't care. Where are you gonna buy your pork chops, bro? Like, ask yourself that question. Why are you going after powerless people who are just trying to do their jobs? They're just trying to survive, and they're putting their health and safety on the line to do it, so you can buy your pork chops.
They used to look forward to Christmas time so that they could complain that Starbucks isn't like acknowledging Christmas on its cups or whatever. Like, they'd look all year, they look forward to, I get to feel like a victim, I get to feel like a victim. Now, everywhere they go, every day they get to feel like a victim. It's wonderful for them. I guess everybody needs a hobby in these difficult times. They found one.
It's amazing. All right, well, let's move on to our next story. Chet Hanks, until today, didn't know he existed, but he exists. He's the son of Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson, two individuals who've had coronavirus early on in the pandemic. And he wanted to share his views on vaccines and masks. Let's watch.
Hey guys, so just checking in. Look, I've been kind of on the fence about this for a while. That's why I've never spoke on it. But with the amount of people that I know recently that have gotten COVID, and with like the numbers rising, I think it's important for me to say, like, I got the vaccine. I think everybody should. I think it's really important, like, that we all do this just as like citizens, as Americans. We have to look out for each other and get this under control, guys. So like, I suggest to all my followers, you guys set an appointment and get the vaccine first thing. Psych, bitch. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I never had COVID. You ain't sticking me with that mother needle. It's the mother flu. Get over it, okay? If you're sick, stay inside. I'm tired of having, okay? Why are we working around y'all? If you're in danger, stay your ass inside. I'm tired of wearing a motherfucking mask.
Don't know why he talks like that.
Doubt he's worn the mask that much, honestly. I feel like his threshold is pretty low.
What makes you think that?
I would get the whole vibe, basically, just his vibe. Is this like a cosmic like karma thing where like the universe will give you Tom Hanks, super nice and makes everyone happy, and then you gotta balance it out some way? How is he a Hanks?
I don't know, I don't even care. What I do care about though is what Chet Hanks represents, and it's a privileged person who never has to worry about his next meal, doesn't have to worry about paying rent, doesn't have to worry about his kids, he doesn't have to worry about a damn thing. And he's sitting there with his entitled, privileged ass, discouraging people from getting vaccinated and needlessly dragging out this pandemic that is hurting people. It's killing people. It's certainly messing with people's livelihood. It's making people go crazy because they need human interaction, human contact. And now we're also starting to see more and more restrictions due to spiking COVID numbers. Hawaii, for instance, just implemented some pretty significant restrictions. Gatherings should be limited to 10 people or less.
It should be an always rule. 10 is enough.
Okay, Mr. Antisocial, got it. No, but I mean, we're going back to implementing the kinds of policies and guidelines that were implemented early on in the pandemic, because the numbers are rising. And why are the numbers rising? Because idiots like Chet Hanks exist. He's entitled, he's privileged, he doesn't have to worry about a damn thing. And so he decides to spend his time discouraging people to do the bare minimum, which is just get the damn vaccine.
Yeah, it'd be so easy. You know, like a lot of people, I was really looking forward to White Boy Summer, and it's taken a dark turn. It had so much potential.
That shirt, John, I feel bad.
It is, exactly. Yeah, you just get the shot. It's super simple. So, like, again, this goes back to what I was saying about the other guy. Every guy is just desperately looking for some way to seem tough. That's why he's screaming at the camera. He thinks this is how he's gonna look tough. He's not scared of this thing because if it's not broke, don't fix it. Aside from the 600,000 people who died. If that doesn't count as it being broke, I don't know what would. And he said it's just the flu. But people get shots for the flu. Like even under the model you're laying out, the answer is a shot.
I love how like he's so into himself too. Let's put that B-roll back up because I wanna point something out. I'm always amused by people like this guy who speaks into his phone camera but can't stop himself from looking at himself instead of looking at the camera.
I probably do that.
So right now he's looking around, but keep watching, keep watching. At one point he's like, oh, I gotta look at my own dreamy little eyes. No.
You know what I want people to do?
To stop talking.
Oh God.
Look into the camera, bro. Look into the camera. He can't help it. He's like, no, I want to look at myself. I got those dreamy blue eyes. Anyway, I don't know.
You know what what I want Tom Hanks to do is I want him to take that video and I want him to cut it before the turn and upload it. I'm very proud of my son. I want him to go viral. I assume for the first time in his life because I didn't even know that he existed until right now.
Right.
I want him to go viral for the first half of that video. I want him to be responsible for some people to go get vaccinated.
That would be pretty wonderful.
Let's make it happen.
By the way, just to give you an update on where we're at with this virus, as of this week, America's 7-day average of daily COVID-19 cases was more than 107,100, the highest average in nearly 6 months, according to Johns Hopkins University data. The last time average daily cases topped 100,000 was February 11th. Average daily cases have seen a 9-fold increase since early July. And of course, more than 66,000 Americans were hospitalized with COVID-19 across the country as of late Saturday. So let's stop for a second, because not only am I furious with the fact that healthcare workers, frontline hospital workers have not gotten a break for 18 months straight. I'm also furious that people who need to go to the hospital because they have other medical concerns get turned away because ICUs and hospital beds are filled with unvaccinated coronavirus patients. It's irresponsible, it's selfish, it's entitled, it's disgusting. Do you guys feel judged? Do people feel judged when I say that?
You're shaming them.
Do you feel judged? I don't care. Grow up. Grow up. I'm tired of it. It's disgusting.
I agree.
Anyway, don't judge us. Don't judge us. Out of here. Anyway, we gotta take a break. We'll be right back. Our super chats are lit right now. I'm gonna start with Nove1775, who writes, did he actually use psych? The 80s called and they want their word back.
You should get vaxxed, not.
By the way, Pepperoni Dragon says hi. Hello, Pepperoni Dragon.
Hello.
Vinny Holiday says, I agree with Anna. That's it, that's all you guys need to know. There's generations of people who imagine themselves as Roddy Piper character from They Live. Salty says, did I hear Dragon Daddy call the video propaganda? LOL.
Well, everyone's calling it that, right?
I actually had not heard propaganda until you just said it. So
well, and I made it up.
Okay,
That's
you
mine.
get
Put it on
credit.
Wikipedia.
You get
That's
credit. Thank you to our YouTube members, Cecilia V and Dawn of SCP. You guys help to keep us independent. You help to sustain us, and we love you. I hope you guys enjoyed the bonus episode. I haven't even plugged the bonus episode today. The bonus episode is gonna be so good.
What's going on?
Well, I got high last night and watched a bunch of Reddit videos, and you know that yields the best results for content.
I wonder which ones. There's so many there.
No, I love Reddit. I'm gonna say it. I love Reddit. Reddit's the best. It's great.
Okay.
Let's go to our members. We have someone who likes Bernie Sanders.
In the bonus episode, I want to know like your 3 favorite subreddits. What you go to. Not now.
Oh man. Okay.
Bonus
All right.
episode.
Okay. All right. Someone who likes Bernie Sanders says, all right, let's invent a drug that makes you compassionate toward black people so that cops can fake OD on that. That was such a great comment. Gabby Marita says,
now as they go down, they'd have just enough energy to get their pistol. They could feel it coming on. Their worst fear realized.
Gabby Marita says, all this anti-mask nonsense originated with Donald Trump being afraid that wearing a mask would smear his bronzer. These right-wing sacks of crap are sacrificing themselves at the altar of a 75-year-old man-child's colossal vanity. Yep. Theater Goddess says, having just returned to my service industry job, I've realized that it isn't that people have gotten worse. It's that the worst people are more likely to be out when things are still so tenuous. The good people are mostly staying home. Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. But whenever I look, for me at this point, and since I've worked in service industry jobs, I go out of my way to be super, super kind to people who work in these jobs because they're so underappreciated, but they're so important to like us, to everything that we need on a daily basis. So if you're in the service industry, I love you. Thank you for doing what you do. Welcome back to TYT, Anna and John with you. Jess, thank you for the comment about my hair. I did wash it today. And usually when I wash it, it looks better.
That happens.
That happens. What happened to your purple hair?
Nobody knows, nobody understands it. I think it was
I understand.
a beautiful, luscious purple.
Okay, I know what
got
happened.
close to some fentanyl and just it was all gone.
You see that? I asked him on the day that he appeared with the purple hair if it was permanent hair dye or if it was semi-permanent. It appears that it was not in fact permanent hair dye.
I will tell it was Arctic Fox Purple Rain. That is the brand, and it is permanent. I think it's permanent, and it's gone. My body is just so pure. It just, it's all gone. Like it can't stick there.
You love drinking cider. Your body is not pure.
I haven't had a cider in forever. I wanted my hair to be purple longer, and it just did not last.
You can dye it again?
I might. It's a whole thing though. My wife has to help me, but I will consider it. Maybe once I have more substantial hair.
Looks pretty substantial. You got a beard too. You could dye your beard. No one's stopping you from that.
I am.
All right. Well, let's talk about Tucker Carlson. Unfortunately, so during an appearance on Fox's The Five, Tucker Carlson weighed in on the possibility of having Democrats on his show, and he claims that they're not in favor of coming on his program. Democrats hate coming on his program. They ignore him like the plague. Why? Well, he explains in this next clip.
You've obviously interviewed a ton of fascinating people, both sides of the aisle. Who would you most like to interview again if they would take your call?
Oh gosh, that's such a great question. There's so many people. I mean, honestly, I'd like to interview anybody in Democratic leadership. I'd like to interview a Democratic congressman. No one will talk to me. No one will come on the show. You're a white supremacist. We're not talking to you. Really? No, I'm not. I just have different ideas from you. Why are you calling me names? It's not even real. Just come on and talk to me like a normal human being. You and I talk all the time, have for a long time. We disagree. It's not that hard, it's fun. But they won't come on.
We definitely disagree. And most of the time it is fun. I'll talk to my people, I'll try to get you a congressman.
Well, look, I don't think we need to adjudicate his white supremacist status. I think it's abundantly clear in the way that he talks about immigrants, the way he talks about black people, the way he even talks about just poor people. I mean, he calls immigrants dirty. Like yeah, he's a white supremacist. Like we don't even need to debate that.
Well, I mean, today I don't think we're doing this video. He's in the news for going on some other Fox show and talking about how Democrats are importing violent criminals to change the demographics of America. That's just the great replacement thing. So we don't need to make the case he's a white supremacist. He eagerly does it every single day.
But let's also be clear about the type of Democrat or the type of person he likes to have on his show who to the general public is perceived as someone who doesn't agree with Tucker Carlson. No, he has people on his show specifically to bolster his arguments. He doesn't have people on his show to disagree with him. And whenever he does have people on his show who do disagree with him, he cuts the interview short. We've seen it happen over and over again.
Rutger Bregman.
Yeah.
I believe, if I remember his name. He came on, he disagreed with Tucker. He was so articulate and so effective in his disagreement that he has never been invited back. And I don't believe they actually aired the interview. I think it had to be released by Rutger Bregman. I can remember that wrong. But no, if you don't help him to accomplish his goals, you do not get invited back. It's as simple as that. Now, with someone like a Democratic congressman or a senator, maybe because they're big enough, he would do it. Maybe like clout chasing or whatever. But he doesn't operate in good faith, and he is a white supremacist. So look, he can laugh that off as a bad reason to not go on. He can say, like, you're calling me names. He doesn't call people names. Call Kamala Harris by her actual name once, honestly. Like and then the crazy laugh. It actually made me feel a little bit better because sometimes he'll script in laughs, like awkward, weird laughs when he comes back from videos. No, that's actually as crazy as he sounds. Yeah. It's honest.
Yeah. Well, why don't we go to the next video, which can get us a better idea on who his following really is.
Who I think is a much better figure. He's certainly more intelligent.
This is Richard Spencer, one of the most notorious white supremacists in the country.
He at least has a kind of open-mindedness in a way that Bill Riley never would.
Spencer isn't the only professional racist giddy about Tucker's show. Here's David Duke, former Grand Wizard of the KKK, tweeting, "God bless Tucker Carlson." And here's the white supremacist website Daily Stormer calling Tucker literally our greatest ally. So what the hell is going on here? Why are white supremacists so excited about Tucker Carlson?
Well, you know what? I would love to answer that question. And our wonderful producer, Shwarya, has put together this fun compilation that can answer it for you. Let's take a look.
Yes, white supremacy is America's biggest problem. And as we've noted many times before, we still don't know, despite fervent and sincere efforts to find out, what a white supremacist is. But the whole thing is a lie. If you were to assemble a list, a hierarchy of concerns, of problems this country faces, where would white supremacy be on the list? Right up there with Russia, probably. It's actually not a real problem in America. Two defendants, Lisa Eisenhart and her son, Eric Munchell, should face indefinite detention. Now, neither Lisa Eisenhart nor her son damaged any property at the Capitol or committed any violence. They just walked in to what we used to refer to as the People's House. The Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world. But they become hysterical because that's what's happening, actually. Let's just say it, that's true. What's happening at the border is not a crisis. A crisis is a flood in Bangladesh. It's an act of God. This is an intentional act. This is the administration bringing felons, violent criminals into our country on purpose. Why would you do something like that? Only to destroy it.
He's such a garbage person. Floods in Bangladesh, it's an act of God. I mean, I guess he's trying to say it's not something that was controlled by humans, except, I mean.
He's trying to imply that, sort of a natural outgrowth of the past few decades of our foreign policy in Latin America leading to people trying to emigrate into our country is somehow something Nancy Pelosi cooked up a couple months ago, I guess.
He thinks that allowing immigrants into the country is something that Democrats want because they're looking for obedient voters from the third world. No, I'm sure, like, he's not a white supremacist at all. No. Is white supremacy a problem in the country at all? I mean, it's right up there with Russiagate, right? I can kind of understand why he has Glenn Greenwald on a regular basis.
Yeah, look, the thing is, Biden, whether because he actually ideologically is similar to the Republicans on immigration or because he stupidly thinks it will lead to them supporting him a little bit more, has continued many of the, not all, but many of the policies of the Trump administration when it comes to immigration. And yet they're still saying that he is trying to replace white voters with the immigrants who he is deporting in mass numbers. If that's your actual strategy, you're doing a bad job of it when you keep sending out your obedient voters that you're having shipped over via Amazon.
So far, Biden's immigration policy has not differed from Trump's. It hasn't. The only difference is that he's not turning away unaccompanied minors. Not because it was his decision, but because federal judges said that he couldn't turn them away. So that's really the only difference. And again, that difference is based on what federal judges are forcing the Biden administration to do. So I give you that not to reward Biden. I completely disagree with what Biden's doing right now, especially given the fact that he campaigned on how cruel and brutal the Trump administration was on asylum seekers. And then he turned around and did the exact same thing that Trump was doing.
So anyway. Look, I think you're 100% right. There's a great compilation by Aishwarya. Look, if some of the, I don't even know if he's being honest about asking them to come on and them not coming on. I don't know, maybe it's true. And I'm not even necessarily saying you can't go on there. If you want to go on there to disagree vehemently with him and call him out for all of his anti-democratic, xenophobic nonsense, you can do that. That is the only reason one should go on. And honestly, if he doesn't ban you, then you're probably not doing your job. Rucker Bregman demonstrated that. So if AOC wanted someday to go on there, I don't necessarily think it's a good idea, but she's free to do that. And I'm sure she would do it for that reason. But you're under no obligation to go on just because he has a show. It is a white nationalist, white supremacist show. That's the point of it. That's its agenda. And you don't have to lend your clout to it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. And look, I also agree that if you're actually given an opportunity to debate or disagree, cool. I actually think that would be a good opportunity for people who disagree with him to go on and expose his audience to a different perspective. But that is not what we see on Tucker Carlson's show. Every time, I mean, he does the typical maneuver that Fox News tends to do, which is, let's give you an example, a black person on to say awful things about the black community. Let's have a woman on to say awful things about feminists. You know, like that's what he does. Let's have someone posing as a leftist on to go after AOC. Like that's what we see over and over again. That is his play. Sorry about that, say it, don't spray it. That is what he likes to do. But I have never seen him appreciate a guest who has a different opinion. He loves to cut those guests off, and he loves to have people on who only further bolster whatever garbage opinion he's trying to share with his audience on any given night.
Yeah, maybe it'll change, we'll see.
Doubt it. Anyway, we've got a few more minutes left, so I wanted to read some super chats, respond to some questions. Let's actually go to our Twitch community. Gypsy Rocks has been with us for 7 months via Prime. Thank you. Rocky Mountain High, 4 months Prime with the comment, 4 months of Bezos bucks to add to my subscription. Solo Anna Wednesdays, or I love Solo Anna Wednesdays. Thank you, love you right back.
Solo Salt.
And by the way, you can be a subscriber for free on our Twitch channel through Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can get that subscription for free. And you should definitely do that because then you give us Bezos bucks and it costs nothing for you. Andy Joe, 5 months Prime with the comment, 5 months of Bezos bucks. And Strong Silent Type is a new sub. Welcome to our Twitch community. And I wanted to also read this comment from Economicon, who says, interested in your takes on looking at limiting retirement accounts. Capping at 5 million is not really attacking just super wealthy and has other effects. I think that's an interesting question. I don't know too much about it because I don't I can't imagine ever having $5 million in a retirement account. So it's never been an issue I've looked at.
I don't know what percentage reach it. I don't know.
Right, so I'll definitely look into it. It's an interesting question. YT Prenude says these violent anti-mask thugs should be in jail. I agree, but more often than not, they're just let go. The video that we shared with you earlier in the show featured a guy who was let off by the cops. He was not detained or arrested. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching. If you're not a member, you should totally become one because I'm super looking forward to the bonus episode today. We're gonna have a lot of fun. We'll see you there. For everyone else, have an awesome night. We'll see you tomorrow.
I'll predict right here for you, Chris. I think Donald Trump will leave office before his term is up. He'll be humiliated, embarrassed, and I know him. He's not gonna wanna lose, and he's gonna run for the hills.
You got that bet all day long.
Okay, let's get after it. Now, so look, Jake has made some good predictions, and this is in good fun. I could not disagree more.
There's no bromance between the two of them. You got that bet all day long, Janky, you. Oh, you stop. In the meantime, let's call him out on the damage.
No, but I just got a Roku set. Did basically a little bit of channel surfing, and I was like, there we are.
Yeah.
There we are. And then I turned it on, and it was John and Brett on Damage Report making fun of me.
Oh no.
So you are so busted. I even took a picture of it, okay? They're talking about my predictions. I got a new prediction for you, John Idarola.
You're doing a show that's blowing the doors off everybody.
Young Turks is the largest online news network, not a big deal.
We're gonna rock the boat. We're gonna be counter-establishment. We're gonna tell people the truth to the best of our abilities. We're so sick of this corruption. We're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care. Fourth day on Occupy Wall Street. Last night we launched Wolfpack. It's us pushing our ideas out there, trying to help the country in every way that we can, trying to make this place just a little bit better. Reporting from the Hillary-Bernie debate, I gotta be honest, you know what we do, we cover it for real. For us, this system isn't working. Free and fair elections. And when he told the cops that day, when they came to drag her away, and he said, if you're gonna chain her, you're gonna chain me. If you're gonna arrest her, you're gonna arrest me.
Hi, I'm Bartholomew Joseph Kyle. I do audio for the main show, The Young Turks. I also do audio for Post Game. I started in 2006. I met Cenk Uygur at the Iraq for Sale screening that was directed by Robert Greenwald. And watching that, I want to figure out a way to be part of something that's genuine and authentic.
3 scoops this time.
We did get 3 scoops this time. John was like, I need to know, what is this song? What is this song that the whippersnappers are listening to? What does ice cream mean?
I did not do that voice. I did say whippersnappers, but I did not do that voice.
It's just a royalty-free song.
I just assumed it was.
Somehow Bart found the best royalty-free song of all time.
Yeah, I guess. I assumed it was like, I don't know, I'm gonna find out like 6 months later it was like Olivia Rodrigo or something. Like, I don't know, that song, for all I know, that song has 200 million like listens on YouTube. I don't know.
No, no, it doesn't. We're probably the ones who are popularizing the song,
true, it's
right?
spreading.
But I was thinking, since that's the Wednesday anthem, why doesn't Ben & Jerry's sponsor us and we can eat Ben & Jerry's ice cream
during the bonus episode?
During the bonus episode.
That's, you know, we've had Ben Cohen on the show many times.
Right? Think about it. Think about it. All right. And John disclosed to me very exciting news that one of his favorite flavors is
Netflix and chilled. It is very good. It's not my favorite, but it's up there right now.
It's pretty damn good.
That is a good one.
Sweet and salty, you can't go wrong.
Oh yeah.
It's my fave. Yeah. All right, well, we've got fun, okay? I'm super excited for these stories. They're not even stories, they're just topics of discussion that I'm really looking forward to. So, we do have another anti-Maxxer story, but this one's really funny. So, anti-Maxxers have been furious at the mainstream media, particularly the BBC, you know, that corporate media outlet that, oh wait. Anyway, so anti-Maxxers decided that the maskers decided that they were gonna go to the BBC headquarters and give those reporters a piece of their minds regarding those mask mandates and those vaccines that they're trying to push on people. Let's watch.
Lots of people. There we go, kicking off now. Police chasing up over the protesters, going towards the old BBC Centre. Here we go.
So they got the wrong building. The BBC is no longer headquartered there. That was a feel-good story, I'm not gonna lie. You know why? Because I feel good about the fact that Americans aren't the only ones who are incredibly embarrassing.
I would have preferred it if we were. I want us to be #1 when it comes to that.
True, I mean, for the sake of the world.
Yeah.
For the globe, I would prefer that only Americans would be the embarrassing ones. I would prefer that Americans weren't embarrassing. That would be the, you know, the top goal. But
you speak
I mean,
of impossibilities.
Exactly.
Were you a little bit disconcerted by how many people were in that crowd?
Yeah, that was the first time I read the story, of course, but I hadn't seen the video until right now, and that was definitely disturbing.
Yeah, I mean like that's how many people I imagine live in the UK. Was in that crowd right there. No, but like really, that's the biggest march I've seen in the UK since V for Vendetta, where ironically they were all wearing masks. So I thought that was a British thing. I guess you guys have turned on that. Yeah, we're doomed. We're doomed as a people.
We're so doomed.
I don't know what platforms come after Twitter and TikTok and Parler and all that, but I have a feeling they won't make us smarter or more critical or more open-minded. The algorithm is only making us worse.
Well, it rewards bad behavior.
Yeah,
so,
and you get bad behavior.
Right, so Vice reported on this story. I would feel irresponsible if I didn't give you more context and information about it. So they report that the footage circulated on social media, to your point, John, and it showed shoving between protesters and a line of police officers who are guarding an entrance to a studio at the television center in White City, West London. Up until 2013, it was the headquarters of the BBC. It's now mainly used to make light entertainment TV shows. Oi, over there!
Oi! Oh my God!
I've been watching Ted Lasso.
Yeah, I know.
Ted
She does the
she
oys.
says oi, and I love it.
She does. I love it too.
She's got the cutest accent. Anyway,
she does. Kind of.
So the protesters were calling out, vaccine passport requirements. The government has actually rejected plans to introduce vaccine passports for sports matches and concerts, but in a bid to increase vaccine uptake among young people, from the end of September, vaccine passports will be required to go to a nightclub. So these are people who are like, are you threatening my nightclub outings? How dare you? We're gonna go attack the wrong building.
Just get the vaccine.
Imagine loving going to nightclubs that much.
Imagine loving it at all.
I know, that's a really good point.
The alcohol everywhere else I hang out is just too reasonably priced. Yeah, I don't get it. Like I've been there, I've looked around, everyone looks mad. I don't know why everyone's there, but anyway.
At clubs?
Yeah, I had an experience at a nightclub in Vegas. It was very expensive. I paid $23 for like a gin and tonic or something.
Sounds right.
And then I remember I didn't get drunk enough because who could afford it in this economy? So I was like mostly sober, standing and looking around, and everybody I looked at did not look like they were having a good time. And I don't just mean in my group, I mean outside of that.
No, the trick to clubs in general, but certainly Vegas nightclubs, is you get hammered in your hotel room before you enter the club.
That's a good idea.
And then,
or you just fall asleep in the hotel room.
Ice cream.
By the way, to loop back to the comment I made earlier, someone reminded me of this. Now, I have made this comparison in the past year, but so V for Vendetta, I was referencing that protest. So the reason they got this despotic regime was because people freaked out after a disease was spread. There was a pandemic that killed 80,000 people. Can you imagine? And then thankfully, the fascists came out with a vaccine that everybody took. So nothing about that movie's realistic. A damn thing. 80,000 people and it changed the world.
Yeah, the thing that's really stood out to me, I mean, it's something that I guess I already knew, but it was kind of something I knew in the abstract. To see it happen to play out in real life is pretty devastating and depressing. Humans don't really care about other people dying at all, even if it's their own.
Not really.
Like I used to think when I was super naive that Americans are desensitized to like innocent people dying in the Middle East because of our nonsense, endless wars. They see them as the others. They don't even see them as human. No, we don't see each other as human in America. Like we don't care about each other at all, at all.
No.
It's so depressing.
Yeah, and I guess in hindsight, I have been surprised by the extent to which we don't care about anything, including our own lives. But the evidence was there. Like, back growing up, like they made fun of people who cared about the rainforest. Like, how does it hurt you if I care about the rainforest? But you mock people who care about the oceans, about whales. Like these people, who does everyone hate more than anything? Vegans, because they care. We should hate them. We've always hated people who care.
Yes, that's a good point. There should be an asterisk on vegans though, because I think hold. I have no disdain for vegans whatsoever at all. In fact, I think most of their arguments are right. But there's a small, I think, non-representative sample of vegans who can be pretty unbearable. It's a small group. I don't think it's representative of vegans in general, but they're the loud ones. And it's sure. I can see why people would be turned off to vegans, but I think your point is right. Why would people be upset at wanting to protect the rainforest.
It makes seeing people who care makes people who don't care feel like they are not doing something they should, and they know on some level that they should, but it's difficult. Life is complicated. You can't care about everything, and so you push out people who cause cognitive dissonance.
Who do you care about the most, or what do you care about the most?
I mean, theoretically fighting climate change, but that has become increasingly theoretical.
Yeah, that is the most important
We're
thing.
in a rough spot.
Dude, it's scary.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, I want to not be depressed, so let's move. Let's get off it.
I'll find a way.
All right. This is my favorite. This is what I've been waiting for, folks. This is the moment I've been waiting for all day long. When the robber came to do his thing, this cool cat prioritized his chicken wings. Let's watch. Dude comes in, he's armed, he's looking to rob people. The man in the Fila sweater, he's chilling, he's just eating chicken wings, minding his own business.
He took a bite.
As the robber is continuing to rob people, Mr. Chill Fila Man continues eating his chicken wings. He's an American hero. That's it, that's it, that's the whole thing. That is what I aspire to be. That is amazing, look at him. What? He's still eating his chicken wings. He's still eating his chicken wings.
Well, I don't even know if that is as impressive as the, yeah, right there, buddy, you can have this. He did the most casual thing.
Who is he? I need to know who he is.
He's the most interesting man in the world.
He exists. He's not a commercial. He exists. He's a real person.
He just cleaned off a bone.
And that's the other thing. He loves chicken wings. Like, I love chicken wings.
Okay, so Jesus. I guess maybe the argument is, okay, I might die at any second. I at least want to enjoy the last few seconds I have. He's there with a woman. He's not like reaching out to hold her hand. Like he's
Actually, the woman doesn't get enough credit because she's also incredibly calm.
Is she eating wings?
But she's not eating wings.
You know what would have been even better? He finishes the wing, he drops down, takes a suck out of that amazing tropical drink he has. Do you see that drink in front of him?
Yeah.
The big green bowl. That
The
guy's
gun
chill.
is pointed to his head. The gun is pointed. He's even smirking a little bit. He's the most interesting
James
man in
Bond.
the world. He's amazing.
He's James Bond.
Who is he? We need to know.
Where is this taking place? Maybe robberies are so common. For me, it would be a game changer for the day.
For those of you wondering, like, what is this? Like, what is this a story? Like, what's the why are you bringing this up? Point number one, I know no context to it. I don't know where it takes place. I don't know the name of the gentleman in the video. I want to know his name. If he happens to come across this video, hit me up because I'd love to have a conversation with you. What I do know is that when it's midnight, you can't sleep, and you've decided to partake in the devil's lettuce. Reddit is the place to be, and you come across these wonderful videos. And how am I not going to share it with you guys? I love you guys. Of course, I'm going to share it with you guys, huh?
You found this on Reddit? I thought you were going into a thing about it's midnight. You want some wings? I thought that's where you're going with that.
Like that's the thing. Like, and it's so funny because I came across that video, and Christian can sleep like on the top of a white picket fence. He's sleeping, he's snoring, he's living his best life. I'm awake and I'm like, this video.
Wake up, he eats the wing. He just keeps eating the wing.
Exactly, it's so amazing.
Can I'm putting up a poll right now, and it's in reference to a thing I'm gonna say that I think is gonna cause 70% of the audience to hate me more. I don't like wings. I would take a tender over a wing every single time.
No.
Because a wing is just a bit of tender and a whole bunch of stuff that's not edible.
This is like the most offensive conversation I've had on this show.
The wing is the stupidest food.
No.
It just is.
No. There's something different about a wing, and it cannot be replicated in a tender. And don't get me wrong, I love me a tender. But when you're in the mood for wings and beer, a tender will not do.
What
it just
are
will
you
not do.
First of all, don't talk to me about what you want to eat when you drink beer. You think you can match me in experience? Imagine being drunk a bunch of beers in, and a whole bunch of tenders get put down in front of you.
I'm not
like heaven.
going to reject the tenders if that's the only option.
Are you gonna be thinking, well, I wish this was a wing?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I am. You know why?
That's crazy.
Look, I think that, first of all, breading is tough sometimes. Like sometimes they get the breading right.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes they don't get the breading right. Sometimes the breading is crap. So tenders, I mean, it's a risky thing to order when you're in the mood for a delicious snack with your beer. The thing about chicken wings is that, well, here's the thing. If you order from the wrong place, sometimes the chicken wings can come out soggy. And soggy chicken, you don't want soggy chicken wings.
That's how I think of them.
But 99% of the time, they're crispy. And there's so many flavor options. People don't talk about the flavor options enough.
You can put those flavors on a tender.
No, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. I don't want a barbecue tender, but I might want barbecue wings.
It's an inefficient, needlessly messy food.
No,
and I won't abide
sometimes
it.
you want to get messy.
I won't abide.
Sometimes you want to get down
after the tenders.
and dirty. Yes, I want the wings. Yeah.
I hate everything. You're making
No,
all
so
of this
good.
worse,
And by the
you're
way-
making me uncomfortable, and it's worse.
By the way, if you're, okay, look, if you have a problem with eating chicken wings like a normal person, there's also a way to debone the wing and then eat it as though it was a tender. Did you know about that?
I could take the meat off of it. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, what you do is on both sides, there's like cartilage type bone.
This sounds great.
Yeah, it is. And what you do is you wiggle it, and then you wiggle the other side, and then you can literally, I'm not kidding, you can literally slide the bones out.
Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to record a short video of that and put it on TikTok. I want to see it.
Okay.
If you have this magical technique that's gonna get rid of, you know what I do? I take two little things you do for corn on the cob.
Lemon pepper.
I put it on the end of a tender.
Lemon pepper.
That's fun. That's fun. No cartilage. No cartilage. Well, actually, there's probably cartilage in there. It's a tender. Come on, let's keep it real. But you can't tell as much. And so here's the thing. I'm curious how hated I'm gonna be. So at twitter.com/Johnny DeRola, I've put up a poll, and as of right now, there are 375 votes.
That was
And
fast.
tenders is winning 53.3% to 46.7. Hashtag Tender Nation, hashtag no wings.
I know, but is that really a representative sample? I mean, they're your followers, so.
You're right, it is biased towards incredibly intelligent, mostly overwhelmingly attractive people. But feel free, everybody, go vote. Twitter.com/Johnny DeRola. We're gonna see. I'm gonna try to make it a topic of conversation on Common Room this week when I'm on. Tenders versus wings, it's going down.
No, I love it. I love these kinds of conversations. In fact, Brett has a lot of these conversations and polls on his show, Happy Half Hour on Wednesdays, which airs right after the bonus episode tonight. So definitely watch that at twitch.tv/TYT. I wanted to add there, I love it.
Nice.
There we go. You guys are on it.
What's
I
he
love
looking
it.
at?
Good news and good booze. That's what he's looking at. Okay, so question for you, and I used to love having this debate with a former colleague of ours, Tom Hank, who has very strong opinions about fast food burgers. What's your favorite fast food burger?
So, important background information. I'm not that into burgers. Like I eat them, but if I could have a chicken sandwich or a burger, I'm almost always gonna have the chicken sandwich. But that said, the burgers that I've had like the most is honestly probably a McDouble. It is a very low quality, cheap burger.
It delivers,
but it's
yeah.
it's like as dense as a neutron star. Like there's something about it where it's like, wait, did you take like a bunch of burgers and just? It's like 2 pounds.
Have you had, and I don't know if this is a national chain or if it's just a California thing, but have you ever had a Big Fat Burger?
I've had a burger from Fat Burger. I don't know if I had a Big Fat Burger.
Shoot. It's Fat Burger? Is it Fat Burger?
Fat Burger is the chain.
There's a big fat place.
Sorry, okay, so in my childhood, we would go to this place called Big Fat, so that's why I mixed it up. But I meant Fat Burger, my bad. So Fat.
Yes, I think I have, but I don't think it was real meat. I think the only time I've been to Fat Burger, I got there like Impossible or whatever.
Oh, that's what you mean. You got an Impossible Burger rather than a meat burger.
There, yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah. You know, as I was thinking about this question that I asked you, of course I thought, how would I answer that question myself?
That's the only reason to ask a question like this.
That's exactly right. And I was thinking about the obvious contenders, right? Like In-N-Out,
a Whopper, a Big Mac,
BK,
perhaps.
McDonald's. There's also Five Guys. Five Guys is always.
Oh, that's true.
All of a sudden.
Five Guys is pretty good, but I've only been to Five Guys a couple of times. The last time I went, I got a hot dog anyway.
You got a hot dog at Five Guys?
I was craving it. I like hot dogs more than burgers.
No, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. That's not American.
Okay.
That's not okay.
How many?
Who does that?
7-Eleven hot dogs do you think I've had? Whatever you just guessed, I've had more.
No, I asked, you know what, I'm sorry. I want to apologize to our members because I'm asking John a question and questions about food when clearly he's got poor judgment.
You should be able to appreciate the small, gross things. And that's what I do in my life. I like Pop-Tarts, I like hot dogs. I'm simple. I grew up not well off. I came to love mac and cheese and ramen and simple things.
No, look, don't get me wrong. There are gross things that I love. I think Spam, if you fry it in a pan, is delicious.
Spam in a pan?
Spam in a pan.
Yeah.
Pan.
I don't normally eat that. I had it in Hawaii a few times. There's a dish that involves Spam there, but no, I like hot dogs and beans. I think that is like the nature's perfect food.
Barbecue beans?
Yeah, like regular baked beans.
Baked beans are freaking good. Baked beans are good.
Finally, we can agree.
We got it. We got it.
Okay, I'll take it over a tender.
This is why you're one of my buddies.
Thank you.
We always find a place to agree. We are. It's who? I mean, it's sugary. It's delicious. Who doesn't like baked beans? They're so good.
They're warm.
Oh God,
you feel kind of like a cowboy eating them. Not just me. Everyone. Everyone who eats them does it to feel like a cowboy.
Everyone.
It's a universal truth.
Yeah, definitely. It's normal. It's totally common.
Exactly. It should be on the can. Probably is.
All right, let's just, okay, I know, I'm sorry, but we gotta watch that video one more time. Just one more time before we wrap up the bonus episode. And there we go, Fila guy. I'm feeling the Fila guy.
He didn't even turn.
He's still eating the wings.
He doesn't seem, the guy put his hand on the woman's neck or back. He doesn't seem that concerned.
No, what's incredible is the smooth way in which he's eating the chicken wings, right? There's no sloppiness. He's very precise.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he's got the white hoodie on. He doesn't want to drip.
That's right. That's right. I mean, no. If I had the ability to remain that cool, calm, and collected, I probably would not be one of the favorites on the show. Let's keep it real. People love the fire.
Yeah, that guy doesn't have, he is salt free, 100% no sodium.
Yeah, no sodium. But in situations like this, you do need the calm guy. Because what good is gonna come of him freaking out? If he freaks out, his lady friend's gonna freak out, other people are gonna freak out.
People start dying.
The only thing you can do in a situation like this is remain calm, but it is nice to see someone add an extra layer by enjoying his chicken wing.
I want to see this in a movie where it ends up he's been sharpening the bone, kills the guy with it. That's the only thing that would make this cooler. John Wick would have killed him with a wing. John Wick could kill you with a tender, honestly. Let's keep it real.
You watch a lot of TV.
It's a movie.
Okay. Don't judge me, everybody. Don't judge me.
It's John Wick. It's so good.
I know, I gotta be better. I gotta be better about getting, I keep saying this, about removing myself from all things politics to enjoy other things in life. So what does John Wick do? Like, what's the movie?
He's a former assassin out of the life, and then, well, I don't want to say, but something happens that would strike you very effectively that draws him back in.
What's the name of the movie?
John Wick. There's 3 of them. They're all awesome.
Okay, I'll check.
But anyway, I'm not even 100% sure you'd love it. I love it. But in terms of you getting out of your bubble, there is a show coming out in November that I want you to watch the night of, because you might like it.
Okay.
It's called The Wheel of Time.
The Wheel of Time.
It is like Game of Thrones, based on a long-running series of fantasy novels.
Okay.
And I am hoping it'll be good. I don't know for sure that it will, but it could be the next Game of Thrones. That's my hope, please.
What is it airing on?
On Amazon.
Amazon.
I mean, well, you know, unfortunately, but
Look,
but that's what it's on. So
we live in a
November.
capitalistic society, okay? So let's at least try to enjoy some of the upsides to that, which happens to be some of the programming.
Yeah. So I'm gonna watch Wheel of Time, and then the next
Yeah.
day we'll come back and talk about how Amazon needs to be unionized. So
100%.
we'll balance it that way.
Love it, love it. All right, thank you so much, everyone. Check out Brett Ehrlich and Happy Half Hour right now, right after the bonus episode. We love you, have an awesome night, and we'll see you soon.